Changing games again. Hua Che chose fish fry. Countless hollow balls, the size of a palm, were to be thrown at a vast number of fish on a giant screen in front of him. Hitting one earned points. Hua Che wanted to compete against Meng Shichu, and she didn't refuse, selecting the two-player mode. It was a full-body workout, and the game would level up once enough points were accumulated. With good skill, one round could last a very long time. Hua Che played with great focus, as did Meng Shichu. But compared to Hua Che's wild abandon, Meng Shichu was much more reserved. She didn't shout as joyfully as he did, and in the end, she lost by just over 1,000 points. Impressive. Meng Shichu praised without reservation, giving him a thumbs up. Hua Che let out a breath. Mind and body are at ease. Playing games was a release for emotions, and the full-body workout also stretched the body. As sweat flowed, the body seemed to become much lighter. In short, it was invigorating. Hua Che's spirits were high, so Meng Shichu accompanied him as he entertained himself at various arcade machines. It wasn't until 9:30 that the two started walking out of the mall. He smiled at Meng Shichu and said, "It's been a long time since I played so freely and without a care." Firstly, he was getting older, and most of the people playing those games were students. An adult stood out awkwardly. In fact, at the beginning, Hua Che had felt a bit self-conscious, but Meng Shichu's occasional jokes and her constant company gradually made him less inhibited. It was exhilarating. Awesome. As they walked out, Hua Che continued to chat cheerfully with Meng Shichu. Suddenly, both of them stopped in their tracks. On a row of electric scooters parked outside the mall's main entrance sat about a dozen delinquents, each holding a club as thick as an arm. When they saw Meng Shichu and Hua Che emerge side by side, they all rose from their scooters, their gazes sharp as they gathered and closed in. And the teenager who remained seated, not getting up, was the very person who had told Hua Che and Meng Shichu to give up their seats earlier. At this moment, the boy hadn't even changed out of his school uniform. His backpack was at his feet, and his gaze was cold and sharp as he looked their way. "Uh-oh," Hua Che turned and said to Meng Shichu, "We provoked a feisty little one." Meng Shichu's expression was placid, not changing in the slightest. One of the young men walked over. "Big brother, big sister, our boss would like to have a chat with you." "Hold on. Let me ask if my wife agrees," Hua Che said earnestly, then turned to ask Meng Shichu, "Want to chat with them?" "Not interested." Meng Shichu shook her head. This kind of pointless affair was a complete waste of time. Although Meng Shichu's voice was loud enough, Hua Che still said to the young man, "Sorry, my wife doesn't want to chat with you." With that, he took Meng Shichu's hand and made to leave. The dozen or so people simultaneously moved to block their path, cutting off their escape. The seated student stood up, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and lazily walked over. "Big brother, big sister, I've waited over 2 hours for you. How about you give me some face?" Though it sounded like a negotiation, it was aggressively tinged with a warning. "How much is your face worth?" Hua Che retorted. The boy's eyebrows shot up, his eyes filled with fury. Meng Shichu stared at him and asked provocatively, in broad daylight, "Do you dare to make a move?" The boy curled his lip and shrugged. "In this area, there's nothing I don't dare to do." Meng Shichu understood. "A repeat offender?" She asked again, "Then do you know the penalties for picking quarrels and provoking trouble and for gang brawling?" The other party froze for a moment, then pointed a finger at her, roaring, "Who the hell is arguing law with you? If you know what's good for you, come to that alley over there." "Wow, so scary." Hua Che feigned a gasp, turning to ask Meng Shichu, "Wifey, you've learned boxing? How many can you take on?" "Fighting is crude," Meng Shichu said with disdain, then raised her hand and made a gesture. Seeing himself being ignored, the student's temper exploded. He ordered his men forward to shove them, intending to drag Meng Shichu and Hua Che into the dark alley by force. But just then, several burly men suddenly rushed out from the surroundings, scattering the dozen or so delinquents with incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, a few more men charged out from the crowd or around corners to join the fray. In a mere moment, all the wooden clubs in the delinquents' hands were confiscated, and the youths themselves were incapacitated on the ground, unable to move. The male student was dumbfounded by the scene. His expression was one of shock. He wanted to run, but it was too late. His path was blocked. He looked toward Meng Shichu and Hua Che in horror, only to see a tall, powerfully built man walking toward Meng Shichu. Jiang Wu stopped and said respectfully, "Young miss, the police have been called." Another bodyguard came to Hua Che's side. "Young master, you and madam should leave first. We'll handle this." Hua Che extended his hand to Meng Shichu. She didn't refuse, placing her hand in his, their fingers interlacing. Kid, you need more practice if you want to play tough. Go learn some basic laws from Officer Friendly, Hui said, then pulled Meng Shichu to leave. At this hour, there were still quite a few people out enjoying the cool air. The scene just now had been witnessed by many. Some of them recognized Hui and Meng Shichu and began to whisper among themselves. That's the Hua family's young master, isn't it? How dare that student have him surrounded? Why would a young master from a rich family come to a place like this? For a new experience? This kid probably doesn't follow the news, so he didn't recognize them. He's finished. Isn't it summer vacation? Why is he still in his school uniform? Maybe some school summer camp ended today. If he really gets a criminal record, his whole life is ruined. He doesn't look like he's 18 yet, does he? Organizing a gang fight, causing a disturbance in a public place, and getting charged with provoking trouble. This is basically flouting the law during a crackdown. Being a minor might not save him. Exactly. He provoked the Hua family's unhinged one. His good days are over. He's just a kid. They definitely shouldn't let him off. As the various discussions washed over him, the boy, already intimidated by the bodyguards who had rushed out, was now terrified by the gossip. Without a second thought, he dropped to his knees. This act made the surrounding crowd gasp, and also caught the attention of Meng Shichu and Hui. Hui glanced at him, then observed Meng Shichu's reaction, noticing that she had already looked away. He paid it no more mind and continued walking forward, holding Meng Shichu's hand. Seeing this, the boy behind them tried to chase after them, but was held back by a bodyguard, unable to move an inch. He shouted at Hui and Meng Shichu's receding backs. Big brother, big sister, I was wrong. I beg you, don't call the police on me. I'm not an adult yet. If I get arrested, my whole life will be ruined. I really know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Amidst the boy's desperate pleas, Meng Shichu and Hui walked further and further away, eventually disappearing into the crowd. Back in the car, Hui put on some light, cheerful music. As he started the car, he suddenly asked Meng Shichu, "Did you really take a picture of him to find his school?" "No." Meng Shichu shook her head, her voice light. "I was bluffing." She wasn't that bored. Hui couldn't help but laugh out loud. "I didn't expect you to pull a move like that. Haven't you heard? When you're out and about, you make your own identity," Meng Shichu said, as if it were common practice. She had encountered many such childish incidents. It was just unexpected that the boy would actually gather people to corner her. She figured he must have some family background, no shortage of money, and was likely the type to be a tyrant at school, mixed up with delinquents. Kyoto was the imperial capital, with strict law enforcement. For these people to dare to block someone so brazenly outside a mall, they must have done it many times before without hitting a wall, which made them so arrogant. Such people were not worthy of sympathy. If a cancer like that was left untreated, it would only become more rampant and bully more people. The car merged into the stream of traffic, heading home. Hui asked Meng Shichu curiously, "Were you scared then?" "Even a little bit." Meng Shichu shook her head. "The first time I was kidnapped, at 7 years old, I was scared for a moment then, almost cried. Since then, no evil spirits or monsters had ever gotten close to her. Whenever she was outside, there were always bodyguards within a 10-step radius. And not just one. Ning Chuan had given her the best security resources. Back home, Hui began taking calls regarding the underage student. Meng Shichu went to take a shower. By the time she came out, Hui had long finished his calls and was selecting clothes. As he picked, he said, "That kid's parents were crying and begging for mercy, but I heard he's bullied a lot of people in that area, even robbed and bullied students from his own school. I don't plan on letting him off." That kid had run into him, so his games were over. Relying on his family's bit of money, he bullied classmates from ordinary families and even girls. He was a local tyrant, so audacious at such a young age. If he let it slide this time, what would happen in the future? Hui suddenly straightened up, holding a necktie, and asked Meng Shichu, "Do you think there's any problem with my decision?" "No problem." Meng Shichu's reply came without a hint of hesitation. She didn't have that damned saintly heart. Back in Yuqing, she had dealt with some even younger brats and their enabling parents. Hui had been quite worried that Meng Shichu, upon seeing him target a minor like this, would think him too unfeeling. Very good. They were the same kind of people. No wonder they always had endless things to talk about. "We're seeing our mom tomorrow. Help me decide which outfit to wear." Hui pulled Meng Shichu over to look at the 3 sets of clothes he had chosen. One was a formal suit that highlighted his figure and presence, leaning towards formal. One was a casual suit set, and one was a daily, boy-next-door style, each with its own character. "It's so hot. Don't wear a suit," Meng Shichu advised. even though they were rarely exposed to the sun. In the end, Meng Shichu pointed to the boy next door style and asked Huache, "How do you feel about this set?" "I'll listen to you." Huache nodded immediately, then asked, "What are you wearing tomorrow?" "A dress, probably." Oh. Meng Shichu had already taken out the hairdryer, but she felt that Huache had more say. The clothes were already chosen, yet he was still holding the necktie. What was the meaning of this? "Is there something else you want to say?" Meng Shichu asked directly. Huache said, "I remember you said a couple of days ago that I look really handsome when I wear a tie, and that you like it, right?" Meng Shichu lowered her eyes and thought for a moment. She remembered. He had said that. That day, Huache had worn a formal suit to a cocktail party. She had come back from working overtime and saw him sitting on the sofa. For a moment, she thought Huache looked exceptionally handsome then. Somehow, the two of them became like dry tinder and a burning flame. She had grabbed the knot of his tie and said to him, "You tying your tie so properly is like you're seducing me to rip it off." She and Huache were not coy people. They had long since explored all sorts of things in bed. Huache wouldn't hide his preferences, and she wouldn't restrain her emotions. If they wanted to say something, they said it. If they wanted to do something, they did it. Direct, but blissful. Now that Huache brought it up, Meng Shichu nodded. "Yes, I like seeing you in a tie." And then riding him, ripping off the tie, stripping him bare, turning the serious, handsome man into a wanton, wild rogue. It brought a great sense of accomplishment. "All right, you go dry your hair. I'm going to take a shower." Huache put away the clothes and took his pajamas to the bathroom. After drying her hair, Meng Shichu sat on the bed and picked up her phone to message Pei Jinhui. "Big bro, are you asleep?" "Pei Jinhui, no, what's up?" Meng Shichu, "Is it convenient to talk about something?" Pei Jinhui, "Meng Shichu, Dad and my mom." Pei Jinhui, "Hold on, I'm going back to my room." A few minutes later, a message came from Pei Jinhui. "Aunt Meng is coming to Kyoto." Meng Shichu, "She arrives tomorrow morning. I won't be going to the Pei family home tomorrow. You stay with our dad." After a while, Pei Jinhui sent a new message. "Dad really wants to see Aunt Meng. I think it wouldn't hurt for them to meet, right?" Aunt Meng had a family of her own. Pei Guanyin wouldn't go so far as to try and break it up. Meng Shichu, "First, my stepfather would get jealous. Second, my mom hates trouble." Meng Ling was a romantic, yet she was born with a heart of stone. When she wanted to break a tie, she would break it cleanly. The past was the past. Pei Guanyin had remained single all these years, which to others seemed like a touching display of deep affection. But to Meng Ling, it was a burden. If Pei Guanyin had handled his relationship with his ex-wife properly back then and not caused her so much trouble, the two of them would never have broken up. Unfortunately, with the interests of both families intertwined, there were always reservations. Since that was the case, Meng Ling had obliged, making a clean exit for everyone's happiness. This time, Pei Jinhui replied quickly, "I understand. Tomorrow morning, I'll just tell Dad you have something on and won't be back. Leave the rest to me." Meng Shichu replied with a Roger sticker. Just as she was about to put down her phone, another message came from Pei Jinhui. "Where is Aunt Meng staying tomorrow night?" Before she could reply, Pei Jinhui sent another. "I haven't seen Aunt Meng in so many years. I'll treat her to a meal then." Pei Jinhui, "Is that okay with you?" Meng Shichu knew that for Pei Jinhui, Meng Ling was also a very special presence, a warmth that never cooled. Just as she was about to reply, Huache came out of the shower, calling out in a drawn-out voice, "Wifey." Meng Shichu, who was typing, looked up, and her eyes immediately narrowed. The typing motion of her hands also stopped. In that instant, her mind went completely blank. She had already forgotten the existence of her phone, let alone the matter of replying to the message. Huache, wiping his hair with a towel with one hand, walked over in his slippers. As he reached the side of the bed, he tossed the towel onto a nearby rack, pressed one knee onto the edge of the bed, and stared with a grin at the dazed Meng Shichu who was looking at him. Huache was very satisfied with this effect. He propped his hands on the bedsheet and leaned close to Meng Shichu. His wifey captivated. A gulp was heard. It was Meng Shichu swallowing. "Oh, okay, you. Why are you dressed like that?" Meng Shichu's voice was airy, and her words were accompanied by an instinctual movement of her arm to the side, pressing the phone screen off and putting it down. She could feel her cheeks burning, her ears feeling like they were on fire, and her blood seeming to boil. Especially with the man's scent washing over her, Meng Shichu felt even more feverish. Her heart was racing. To her question, Huache said, "Didn't you say I look good in a tie? But you're... Did I not tie it right?" Huache cut Meng Shichu off, simultaneously reaching out to take her hand. "I didn't tie it well. Why don't you help me retie it? The most direct form of flirtation. Meng Shichu rarely felt irrational, but at this moment, she was very irrational. She had praised Huiche for looking handsome in a tie, but she hadn't told him to only wear a tie. The Huiche of this moment was wearing a pair of risque briefs he'd bought sometime, with a thin layer of fabric in the front, revealing and concealing, and 2 strings in the back cupping his buttocks. He wore no shirt, but a properly tied, dark pattern necktie. It was the height of seduction. Her hand was led by his to the knot of the tie. Meng Shichu's index finger flicked lightly, brushing past Huiche's Adam's apple, and she said with a curve of her lips, "Of course it's handsome. My husband looks handsome in anything. When did you buy this?" "At the mall, when I said I was going to the restroom." "Quite thoughtful of you." Huiche kissed Meng Shichu on the lips. "I'm a man of my word." The man's wet hair was still dripping, and the risque attire put Meng Shichu in a great mood. In terms of their marital life, apart from the first time, it had been very harmonious. She quite liked the style of Huiche's, like a male siren who could suck out one's soul. After a satisfying time, Meng Shichu cleaned up and lay in bed, still holding the necktie Huiche had worn earlier. One could only say that young Master Huan knew how to have fun. Perhaps thinking of the recent intensity and pleasure, Meng Shichu wrapped the tie around her palm and wrist. She found her phone to check the time, only to discover she had completely forgotten about replying to Pei Jinhuai's WeChat message. And Pei Jinhuai had already sent several more. Pei Jinhuai. 10 minutes later. Is it that Aunt Meng doesn't want to see me? Another 10 minutes later. It's okay. If it's not convenient, don't force it. I was being too demanding. Half an hour later. Please pass on my regards to Aunt Meng for me. 8 minutes later. I've ordered some things. Could you please help me pass them, Aunt Meng? Followed by, don't worry, I won't let Dad go over and cause trouble. Pei Jinhuai. Rest early. Meng Shichu quickly replied. Why are you so good at jumping to conclusions? They're staying at my place at Xiangshan, Meiyuan tomorrow night. Come over when you have time. He replied instantly. You didn't reply for so long. I thought I was putting you in a difficult position. Meng Shichu lied. I was just in a conference call. The work was tricky. Didn't have a chance to reply to your message. After all, she was the one who had initiated the chat with Pei Jinhuai. Who knew she would be so quickly bewitched by Huiche? Pei Jinhuai sent an O sticker, then asked, Is it handled? Don't be a stranger if I can help. When Huiche came back from a shower, he saw Meng Shichu sitting on the bed, tapping on her phone, with the tie wrapped around her right hand. For Huiche, this scene was a powerful visual shock. He walked over, his palm caressing the back of her hand that was wrapped in the tie. You like it that much? Meng Shichu hadn't been consciously aware of it. Being reminded, she was startled to find the tie wrapped around her hand, its ends dangling. At a glance, it had a certain allure. Even she herself felt a stir in her heart. I do like it, Meng Shichu admitted with a nod. Although a blush crept onto her cheeks, her answer was exceptionally firm. If she didn't like it, she wouldn't have been so thoroughly charmed today, nor would she have unconsciously wrapped it around her hand. The feeling was inexpressible, an instinctual approval and fondness. Shichu, I really like communicating with you. Huiche sat down next to Meng Shichu, pulling the covers over both their legs. All communication with Meng Shichu was effective, with no nonsense. He once thought that only when working with exceptionally brilliant people could every conversation be on point. He never expected it could be like this in a marriage as well. Meng Shichu smiled, continuing to reply to Pei Jinhuai's WeChat messages while also responding to Huiche's words. Then you can chat with me more often. I always thought you were a woman of few words. Where did you get that misconception? Huiche thought for a moment and said, The first time we met at the arcade, you said 2 words. Thank you. Then you left. His friends had all said Meng Shichu was very cold, her aura chilling to the extreme. Huiche added, the second time at the farmhouse on the mountain, you were also quiet. Meng Shichu sent a goodnight sticker to Pei Jinhuai, put down her phone, and turned to Huiche. I can be quiet, and I can be active. Quiet, because she was focused on one thing, or because there were unfamiliar people around with whom she had no business dealings. Active, for either family and friends, or for business networking. Her circle of truly close friends was very small. Most were related to business interests. She was always single-mindedly chasing fame and fortune. Huiche's large hand held Meng Shichu's over the tie. You're amazing. To be able to admit, I'm amazing, you must be outstanding too. Waking up on schedule, Meng Shichu found the tie still wrapped around her wrist, with one end held in Huiche's palm. Letting out a soft breath, Meng Shichu found it amusing. Untangling the tie, Meng Shichu got up. As soon as she sat up, Huiche pulled her back. What time is it? Meng Shichu turned on her phone to check. 6:10. Still early. You sleep a little longer. Meng Shichu removed Huachei's hand and got out of bed. But by the time she had washed up, she found that Huachei was also up. Meng Shichu asked him, "Not sleeping in a bit? We have to pick up Mom and Dad. It's better to be early." Huachei had informed the butler last night to prepare breakfast early. When he and Meng Shichu came downstairs, breakfast was ready, and the butler immediately had someone set the table. After breakfast, the two went upstairs to change. Huachei put on the outfit Meng Shichu had chosen yesterday, which instantly made him look like a steady, sunny boy next door. He styled his hair with his hands, adding a touch of vibrant energy. At a glance, he was the approachable boy next door. Meng Shichu wore a daffodil yellow, sleeveless, waist-cinching long dress, her long hair half tied up, making her look youthful and vibrant. The layered bracelet and bangle on her left wrist were eye-catching and brilliant, looking like a naturally paired set of adornments. Suddenly, Huachei noticed a faint bluish mark on her wrist. He took her hand to look closely and asked, "Did I do this last night?" "It's just a small mark, it's fine." Meng Shichu didn't deny it. Actually, she hadn't noticed it at the time. She only saw it when she was washing up afterwards. The mark was even fainter then. Who knew it would become more obvious overnight? Huachei stared at it for a few seconds, then chose a very light cyan scarf with silver threads from a nearby cabinet. He gently wrapped it around Meng Shichu's wrist, tied a knot, and perfectly concealed the marks. Under the scarf, the bracelet and bangle were faintly visible, adding a touch of mystery that was unexpectedly beautiful. Good taste. Meng Shichu praised sincerely. Huachei's aesthetic sense was consistently on point. Huachei said, "Doesn't it look like the pistil and stamen hidden within flower petals?" The bangle and bracelet were the pistil and stamen, the scarf was the petals, and it matched her dress perfectly. Huachei and Meng Shichu stood side by side in front of the mirror. Huachei said without a shred of modesty, "A handsome man and a beautiful woman, a perfect match." Meng Shichu smiled but didn't respond. Because they were both going for a sunny, youthful look, Meng Shichu wore the white sneakers she bought last night. The shoelaces were a light cyan, matching the color of the scarf on her wrist. "Beautiful," Huachei sighed. He thought to himself, "Such a beautiful wife, and she's mine. My luck is uncanny." It was just 8 o'clock when they arrived at the airport. The weather wasn't great. It was overcast and humid. Huachei and Meng Shichu sat in the car, one handling business on a phone, the other arranging tasks on a tablet. Both were quite busy. At 8:20, they both put down their work and got out of the car. Huachei took the bouquet from the passenger seat. Suddenly, a question occurred to him, and he asked Meng Shichu, "If I give Mom such a vibrant bouquet, will Dad get jealous?" "No." Meng Shichu shook her head. Ning Chuan wasn't that petty. A short while later, Ning Chuan emerged with Meng Ling on his arm. Meng Shichu and Huachei both went to meet them. "Mom, Dad." As soon as Meng Shichu's voice fell, Huachei spoke up, simultaneously handing over the flowers. "Mom, welcome home. I'm your son-in-law, Huachei." Of course, he didn't forget Ning Chuan. "Dad, I've been looking forward to your arrival for so long. You're finally here. This young man sure knows how to talk." Meng Ling had heard about Huachei from Ning Chuan, so her impression of him was already quite high. His welcome home just now was even more heartwarming. Her daughter's home was, of course, her home too. Meng Ling praised him with a radiant smile. "The flowers are beautiful. You have good taste." The group chatted as they walked toward the parking area. Suddenly, a figure rushed over, targeting Huachei. Before they could get close, they were seized by a bodyguard. But their voice couldn't be muffled. "Huachei, save me. Save me. They're trying to take me back to marry an old man. Save me." Even though she was restrained, Xia Yin struggled fiercely, trying to inch forward, her mouth letting out heart-wrenching cries. She had been so close to boarding the plane and escaping Kyoto. Just a little closer. Luckily, when she was caught and dragged out, she had unexpectedly run into Huachei. This was fate. Huachei would save her. In this public place, she who had long been carved into Huachei's heart and bones, plus the fact that she had saved his life, Huachei would definitely not abandon her. Xia Yin was exceptionally certain in her heart. Finally managing to free one hand, she waved it toward Huachei's back. "Huachei, you have to save me. You owe me. I saved your life. You have to repay me. Huachei, Huachei." The bustling footsteps of passers-by came to a halt, forming a circle around the area. The bodyguards who had been hidden in the surroundings also revealed themselves, maintaining order and preventing the crowd from getting too close to avoid any accidents. Everyone was whispering, and most people knew who Huachei was. The married young master of the Hua family, the unhinged one. He wouldn't have pursued his savior with such obsessive love if he weren't unhinged. He wouldn't have made a high-profile proposal on the day of the Pei family's illegitimate daughter's wedding if he weren't unhinged. And at this moment, Hua Chei's excellent mood was utterly destroyed. He became gloomy and frigid, his chest heaving with fury. Meng Ling and Ning Chuan had immediately turned around to see a pale, tear-streaked, gaunt woman. She was trying her utmost to get closer, but the disparity in strength was too great. She couldn't break free from the bodyguard's hold. Meng Ling narrowed her eyes, her face darkening. Ning Chuan was already watching Meng Ling's expression. A frown from her meant she was displeased. He spoke in a low voice. Hua Chei, what is this situation? Meng Shichu pulled her hand from Hua Chei's and spoke up. Just a pitiful person. Just as Hua Chei took a step forward, Meng Shichu stopped him. I'll handle this. She had said last time that she would take over Xia Yin's matter. Hua Chei held on to Meng Shichu. I'll do it. She has a claim of gratitude on you, not on me. For that very reason, she was more suited to step forward. This matter was neither big nor small, but with so many onlookers, a slight misstep could affect the Pei and Hua families. It wasn't necessary. Meng Shichu walked over, also taking her phone out of her bag and signaling a bodyguard. A moment later, she stood before Xia Yin. Miss Xia, don't be afraid. Non-consensual marriage is against the law. If they're using you to exchange for money or benefits, it could even involve human trafficking, which is punished more severely. I've already called the police for you. Xia Yin looked at the woman before her. She was speaking in a gentle, soft voice, but her words brought Xia Yin utter despair. You get away. I want to see Hua Chei. Let them go of me. Xia Yin didn't want to communicate with Meng Shichu, clamoring to see Hua Chei instead. Meng Shichu looked up and saw the group chasing Xia Yin approaching, swearing and cursing. The woman with the foulest mouth was likely Xia Yin's mother. Meng Shichu said to a bodyguard, stop them. Don't let them leave. In the blink of an eye, the people chasing Xia Yin were also stopped. Xia's mother had seen photos of Meng Shichu before, since she'd been keeping tabs on Hua Chei. She gave a sycophantic smile and said, I'm sorry, Miss Pei. I apologize that my daughter has offended you. I'll take her away right now. Unfortunately, she couldn't leave. Xia Yin was still shouting. Meng Shichu's voice suddenly turned cold. Miss Xia, please have some self-respect. What's it to you? The one Hua Chei loves is me. She. Who called the police? A nearby patrol officer walked over, interrupting Xia Yin's voice. Meng Shichu said, this lady was asking for help on the spot, saying she was about to be taken away for a forced marriage. There were witnesses all around. After a simple exchange with the officer, Meng Shichu turned and left. Xia Yin was freed, but she still couldn't get near Hua Chei. Instead, she was slapped across the face by her mother. Meng Shichu paid no attention to the subsequent handling of the situation. Her method of dealing with it, however, made the onlookers sigh in admiration. It was classy and lawful. The car was silent, the atmosphere stagnant. Meng Ling turned to ask Meng Shichu and Hua Chei, what exactly is going on? An ex-girlfriend? She had been very busy recently, and with her daughter being so focused on her career, she hadn't worried about her daughter's suffering in her relationships. Ning Chuan had been praising Hua Chei constantly, so her impression of him was quite favorable. But this encounter could hardly be called pleasant. Hua Chei said, she saved my life. I pursued her for many years, but she didn't like me. I only met Shichu after cutting ties with her. The implication was that he wasn't pursuing Xia Yin, while also being married to Meng Shichu. After a pause, Hua Chei added, I never dated Miss Xia, so she's not an ex. A debt of gratitude is hard to repay. Meng Ling's voice was indifferent. It was the world's most expensive debt. Xia Yin's crazed, hysterical state was strikingly similar to Pei Guangyin's ex-wife back then. It was quite unsettling. Hua Chei remembered Meng Shichu calling Xia Yin a pitiful person earlier. He was a bit uncomfortable with that. So he said to Meng Shichu, she's not some pitiful person. The pitiful one was him. After giving up his previous life, and giving so much in this one, he was still being entangled. Meng Shichu didn't agree. She explained, a person treated as a bargaining chip by her family, abandoned by the object of her years-long pursuit, forsaken by the man who loved her deeply for years, and only knowing to come back after suffering setbacks. What is that if not pitiful? Pitiful for not understanding the truth, pitiful for not seeing who was sincere, pitiful for being self-righteous. Infinitely pitiful, but not worthy of sympathy. Every choice an adult makes has a corresponding consequence they deserve. They deserve to enjoy happiness, or they deserve to suffer disaster. Xia Yin belonged to the latter. Hearing this, Che was struck by the realization that Meng Shichu was looking at the matter from a superior's perspective, and his mind was completely cleared. He said guiltily, "I'm so sorry." "Stop." Meng Shichu cut him off. "Didn't we say husband and wife don't say such things?" In the front, Ning Chuan leaned close to Meng Ling's ear, showing her his phone screen. The words on it read, "Let the children handle their own fortunes. Don't get worked up. If they take a shortcut now, they will suffer for it in the future. These incidents will lay the foundation for their future relationship, whether it's a good one or a bad one. Even if it's bad, with the elders still around, we can help and support them. If we suppress it now and it explodes in the future when we're gone, what will the children do? In a marriage, mutual trust and support are especially important." Meng Ling smiled but said nothing. The car stopped at Haidang Courtyard. Ning Chuan and Meng Ling got out. Looking around, Ning Chuan asked casually, "Little Chu, are you not living at Xiangshan Meiyuan anymore?" "I moved here after marrying Che. Aside for business trips, I go there every day or two." No matter how busy she was, she could always squeeze in the time. Entering the main hall, the butler served tea. Not long after, a voice came from outside. "Does little Che have guests?" Meng Ling inquired. "It's my parents and my older brother." Che had already stood up. Soon, the three from the Hua family entered, with an assistant behind them carrying large and small gift boxes. Hua's father, Ming Jian, holding his wife Lu Hui's hand, greeted them enthusiastically as soon as he entered. In-law mother, in-law father. Within the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the two families had become well acquainted, laughing and talking freely. It was Che who spoke up to remind them. "Dad and Mom have been on a long flight. Let them rest first." "Right, look at me, I got so excited I forgot." Hua Mingjin quickly stood up and said to Ning Chuan and Meng Ling, "In-law father, in-law mother, you two rest first. I've booked a place for lunch. We can chat more then." "We're troubling you," Meng Ling said with a touch of apology. Ning Chuan also said, "We'll have to trouble our in-laws." "Not at all. You're the ones who raised such an excellent daughter, and you didn't look down on our rascal of a son. We should have been the ones to go to Yucheng." The Hua parents had indeed suggested going to Yucheng to meet Meng Ling and Ning Chuan. The Hua family was marrying into theirs, so they should have shown the proper attitude. However, Meng Ling was on a long business trip and not in Yucheng. They had planned to go when she returned, but she ended up coming straight to Kyoto instead of going back to Yucheng. No wonder Meng Shichu had been on 2 business trips in less than 2 months of marriage. Both mother and daughter were classic career women. Hua Mingjian and Lu Hui didn't linger. Meng Shichu took Meng Ling and Ning Chuan upstairs to rest. Outside the courtyard, Hua Cheng had already gotten into the car, but suddenly got out again. With a grave expression, he pulled Hua Che aside. "How did you let that Xia Yin cause a scene in front of Aunt Meng and Uncle Ning?" Hua Che looked at Hua Cheng's phone screen, his brow furrowed. In the information age, rumors spread like wildfire. Hua Cheng spoke a few earnest words to Hua Che before getting back into the car and leaving. On the walk back to the main hall, Hua Che was looking at the news on his phone. A message came through in his group chat. "Chung Yushio at Hua Che causing a scene in front of your mother-in-law and father-in-law. That's a bit embarrassing. Duan Xiao. The whole circle is talking about it. So many eyes are on the Pei and Hua families right now. Little Che, you better play your cards right. Chung Yushio. Do the eyes on the Hua and Pei families include the Duan family? Duan Xiao. They do. Lu Jing is. X is so unclassy. Lu Jing at Hua Che, just cut the Gordian knot, man." Hua Che replied with one word, "Got it." With his word, the others stopped talking about him and instead praised how beautifully Meng Shichu had handled the matter. Quite brilliant. Returning to the main hall, Meng Shichu was just coming downstairs. Hua Che showed her the news. After a quick read, Meng Shichu said, "I'll meet with Xia Yin on Monday. This matter will be settled and put to rest. I can handle it." Hua Che was still determined to handle it himself. As a man, how could he hide behind his wife? Meng Shichu explained, "You pursued her, and she has a claim of gratitude on you. It's not convenient for you to be the one to deal with it. A person must be sentimental, but they also must not be unjust. No matter how much Hua Che had given Xia Yin in the past, if he were to do anything to her now, he would be criticized, and people would jump out to call him ungrateful. Rumors were a double-edged sword. A slight misstep could hurt oneself." "All right," Hua Che took Meng Shichu's hand. "Thanks for your hard work, wifey. It's my duty." Hua Mingjian had booked a private room at the Diamond Supreme Hotel. The two families dined in a cheerful and harmonious atmosphere. Although Meng Ling and Ning Chuan had seen the news about the airport incident, they didn't say much about it. In the afternoon, They visited a private mountain villa, and in the evening, a banquet was held at the Hua family's old residence. Originally, Hua Mingjian and Lu Hui had planned to eat at the hotel, but it was Meng Ling who said she wanted to meet old Mrs. Hua, so it was changed to a family dinner. Hua Mingjian and Lu Hui welcomed them warmly, and immediately had the household make arrangements. They also notified the third brother, Hua Mingjun. As for the second brother, Hua Minghai, Hua Mingjian didn't inform him. That hothead had been like a firecracker lately, so it was best to be cautious. At 5:30, the group arrived at the Hua family's old residence. They happened to run into the third brother, Hua Mingjun, and his son, Hua Shuxian, who had just arrived. CEO Meng, CEO Ning, welcome, welcome. Hua Mingjun shook hands with Ning Chuan, while Hua Shuxian gave a slight nod to Meng Ling. CEO Meng, we meet again. At this time, I should be calling you Aunt Meng. Hearing Hua Shuxian's words, Hua Che asked curiously. Hua Shuxian explained, I've acted in 2 dramas produced by Xingyu. We met, had a drink, and even took a photo together at a celebration banquet before. That was why he had taken leave from his film set today and rushed back at the last minute. If I had known you were a Hua family boy, Meng Ling said with a smile, you're handsome, definitely best actor material. Hua Che had been busy developing his love brain before. Not only did he not follow celebrities, but he also thought that members of the Hua family mixing in the entertainment industry as mere actors was beneath them, so he hadn't paid much attention. He didn't expect such a fateful connection. They entered the main hall in a lively mood. Meng Ling saw old Mrs. Hua and immediately went up to her. Auntie, the old lady took Meng Ling's hand, looking her up and down. Still as beautiful as ever. Not all, Meng Ling said. I was just saying I should find some time to visit you on the mountain with my husband. Now it's even better. We become one family. Auntie, you can come stay with us in Yuching for a while, without any worries. The old lady nodded repeatedly. Good, good. Lingling, you're so thoughtful. We were fated to be. The room was bustling with activity, with endless topics of conversation, as if it were a major holiday. Just as the evening banquet was about to begin, people from the second branch of the family arrived. However, it wasn't Hua Minghai. His wife was still away on a mountain. He had sent his son and daughter over with gift boxes. The second young master of the Hua family, Hua Qi, was Hua Minghai's eldest son. He was in the family corporation, one of the executive directors, on par with Hua Cheng. The daughter, Hua Xian, was also the only young lady in the Hua family. She ran a rising entertainment company, her biggest dream being to sign Hua Shuxian. She had had minor collaborations with Meng Ling Xingyu. Before anyone from the Hua family could ask, Hua Xian said, my dad pricked his hand while fishing and it got infected. His hand is really swollen, and he was afraid of bringing germs over. My mom is still on her trip and hasn't returned, so it's just me and my brother who came. The family banquet was harmonious. No one brought up anything unpleasant. Plus, with the various parties having work connections that were intertwined in 1,000 ways, it felt more like a gathering of old friends who had known each other for a long time. They chatted freely until almost 10 o'clock. The Hua family had arranged for accommodations, but Meng Ling and Ning Chuan insisted on staying at their daughter's place, so the Hua family didn't insist and sent a driver to take them. It was already 10:40 when they returned to Xiangshan Meiyuan. Ning Chuan looked around the house, sometimes playfully waking up the ants in their container, other times pretending to steal eggs from a nesting female falcon. Childish ghost. Meng Ling scolded with a smile, her voice lacking any real force. Ning Chuan said, I haven't seen these 2 little guys all year. I thought they had run off or had an accident. Who knew they were snatched away to Kyoto by the god of thunder? It left him with no mouths to feed the bugs that were chewing on his vegetables in his yard. Little Chu saved them first, so of course they recognized Little Chu. You just go on and plant your vegetables. Right, I'll just plant vegetables and grow flowers. Ning Chuan nodded repeatedly. He had also raised 2 tyrant flowers. His phone rang then. It was a video call from his son, Ning Muron. I'm doomed, Ning Chuan lamented as he answered the call. Ning Muron's roar immediately came through the phone. You guys are so mean. You went to see my sister behind my back. I'm angry. I'm running away from home. Ning Chuan cleared his throat. It was an accident, a last-minute decision. I'll take you next time. Ning Muron wouldn't listen to such a perfunctory excuse. I want to come over. Ning Chuan said, we're going back tomorrow. There's no point in you coming. While Ning Chuan was doing ideological work on Ning Muron, Meng Shichu also received a call from Pei Jinhui. Dad saw the news and knows Aunt Meng is in Kyoto. He's been locked in his study for a long time. Just after breakfast, a guest arrived at the door. It was Xiao Yunshuo and his fiancée, Gu Sheng. The two were arm in arm, and Xiao Yunshuo was carrying a red gift box. Following the butler, they They saw Hua Che stretching his arms and legs as soon as they entered the main gate. Hua Che was about to speak when Xiao Yun Shua beat him to it. "Good morning, young master." "Morning, CEO Hua." Gu Sheng followed up. "Good morning to you too, CEO Xiao and Miss Gu." Hua Che took a step forward to greet them, his eyes falling on the gift box in Xiao Yinshua's hand. "You two are here to see Uncle Ning and Aunt Ming." Xiao Yinshua had originally only guessed they had stayed here last night. Seeing Hua Che upon entering confirmed it. Hua Che entered with them and saw Xiao Yunshua chatting warmly with Ning Chuan. Gu Sheng was also arm in arm with Meng Ling. At a glance, one might have thought Gu Sheng was also Meng Ling's daughter. Having been married to Meng Shichu for so long, they had never asked about each other's pasts, nor about their social circles. He had no idea that Xiao Yunshua had such a close relationship with Meng Shichu's parents. Hua Che even heard Xiao Yunshua inviting his mother-in-law and father-in-law to the Xiao family home. Ning Chuan politely declined. "We have a flight back to Yuqing this afternoon, so we won't go to the Zhao's. Please give my regards to your parents and grandfather." Meng Ling also said to Gu Sheng, "Aunty's been on a long business trip this time. I haven't been to the company in ages. After a couple of days back in Yuqing, I still have to go to Lucheng. Next time, we'll go to the Gu's for tea and a meal." Meng Shichu came out from the backyard, and Gu Sheng hurried over. "Chu Bao." Xiao Yunshua waved. "Shichu, good morning." "Morning," Meng Shichu asked. "Why didn't you say you were coming? We know you're busy." "Sheng and I just came to try our luck." "And they happen to be in luck." Suddenly, Gu Sheng exclaimed, "Ah, what kind of bird is this? It's so big." Her reaction was dramatic, and the falcon following Meng Shichu also spread its wings and let out a cry. Meng Shichu shielded Gu Sheng, saying, "It's a falcon I rescued earlier. It comes here in the summer to freeload and raise its young." "So that's the one," Gu Sheng said with sudden understanding. She knew Meng Shichu had two freeloading guests, but this was her first time seeing them. Throughout the morning, Meng Ling and Ning Chuan didn't go out, and Xiao Yunshua and Gu Sheng didn't leave either. Lunch was also eaten there, with a rare crowd. The butler called in a team of chefs, and the meal was exceptionally lavish. Meng Shichu opened a bottle of red wine someone had gifted her, and they all raised their glasses in a toast. After lunch, the butler had someone brew tea, and everyone chatted idly in a main hall or relaxed time. Hua Che noticed Meng Shichu occasionally checking her phone and asked in a low voice, "Is there some work you need to attend to?" Meng Shichu shook her head and opened her phone to show Hua Che. It was her chat with Pei Jinhui. At first, Pei Jinhui had said he wanted to come see Meng Ling, but because of the chance encounter with Xia Yin at the airport, the incident had made the news and become known throughout their circle. Pei Guangyuan also knew. Pei Guangyuan wanted to see Meng Ling, but Meng Ling had told Meng Shichu beforehand that she would not see Pei Guangyuan, so Pei Jinhui had to try and persuade him. Unfortunately, before he could succeed, another incident had occurred. Pei Guangyuan's ex-wife had shown up at the Pei family home under the pretext of discussing matters with her son, and now things had blown up. Seeing those chat logs, Hua Che suddenly understood why Meng Ling had so decisively broken up with Pei Guangyuan back then. So many years had passed, and the moment Meng Ling set foot in Kyoto, the ex-wife showed up to cause trouble. One could only imagine how ugly the situation must have been back then. Ning Chuan noticed Meng Shichu and Hua Che's small movements and asked, "What's wrong, little Chu?" Meng Shichu shook her head slightly. Ning Chuan immediately understood and said, "If there's anything you can't handle, tell me." Meng Ling had noticed as well, but guessing the reason, she didn't ask. So many years had passed. She had a son and a daughter, a husband who doted on and loved her. She had long since moved on from that past relationship. If Pei Guangyuan couldn't move on, he should look for the reason within himself, not use deep affection as an excuse to hold her hostage. Back then, Pei Guangyuan also bore some responsibility for the breakdown of their relationship. Meng Ling didn't feel a shred of guilt over Pei Guangyuan remaining single to this day. Why was it that because Pei Guangyuan couldn't move on, she was the one deemed too heartless? At 2 o'clock, Xiao Yunshua and Gu Sheng took their leave. Meng Ling and Ning Chuan also had to prepare to head to the airport for their 3:40 flight. People from the Hua family arrived. Hua Mingjian, his wife, and Hua Cheng all came, bringing countless more gifts. Before getting into the car, Lu Hui chatted arm in arm with Meng Ling. Ning Chuan bid farewell to Hua Mingjian, and Hua Cheng was talking about something with Hua Che. Only Meng Shichu was on a work call. She was rather busy. Hua Cheng asked Hua Che, "How do you plan to handle this matter of Xia Yin harassing you?" "Shichu will handle it." Hua Che's gaze was gentle as he looked at Meng Shichu, who was on the phone over there. The meeting with the Pei family elders before had been very pleasant. These 2 days with Meng Ling and Ning Chuan had also been exceptionally smooth. No one had given him a hard time, let alone brought up his past scandals. This marriage, which he had proposed on a whim, had received the protection and support of 3 families. Although it had only been less than 2 months, and he and Meng Shichu had argued over small things, they were resolved in a timely manner, which was an extremely healthy process of moving forward. This period was so much more relaxed than the previous 6 years. Hua Cheng clearly felt the change in Hua Che. It wasn't a change in his outward appearance or behavior, but that the previously odd, crazed, stubborn, and explosive firecracker had, through the nourishment of this marriage, become gentle and lively. His entire spirit was different. This was what marriage was originally supposed to be like, positive and uplifting. Hua Cheng patted Hua Che's shoulder. I didn't expect you'd be the one to live off a woman. His own past debts had to be cleaned up by his wife. This comment made Hua Che pause for a moment. Then he smiled. Envious? When is sister-in-law coming back to marry you? Hua Cheng punched Hua Che's arm. Cut the crap. Hua Che, however, was curious. You and sister-in-law have been engaged for 10 years. Shouldn't her advanced studies be over by now? She's coming back at the end of the year. Hua Che thought of things from his past life, and suddenly asked, Bro, do you think that after studying abroad for so long and seeing so many amazing people, sister-in-law will come back and break off the engagement with you? Hua Cheng's brow furrowed. Don't start talking nonsense just because I gave you a compliment. Hua Che didn't say any more. In his past life, his sister-in-law had indeed proposed to break off the engagement with Hua Cheng when she returned. But it was no big deal. The car arrived at the airport at 3:20. After getting out, Ning Chuan, with a suitcase in one hand and Meng Ling's hand in the other, bid farewell to Meng Shichu and Hua Che. You two take care of yourselves. If you have conflicts, reconcile them properly. If you can't, leave it to time, Meng Ling said calmly. But there was another sentence left unsaid. If time can't reconcile it either, don't force it. Let each other go. Relationships, after all, are about mutual willingness. If it starts with unwillingness, the entanglement can only bear bitter fruit. Ning Chuan, on the other hand, said to Hua Che, You're not allowed to bully my daughter, or I'll really beat you up. Don't worry, I can't bully her, Hua Che said bluntly. He couldn't win a fight against Meng Shichu. That was a fact. Unexpectedly, in the next second, he heard Ning Chuan admonishing Meng Shichu. You shouldn't bully little Che either. If you can argue, don't resort to violence. That sentence was also left unfinished. Hidden within it was, if the other party dares to show any sign of violence, just knock him down first. Meng Shichu nodded. Message me when you arrive. With a wave, the two entered the airport, followed by an assistant and 4 bodyguards. It wasn't until their figures disappeared that Hua Che said to Meng Shichu, Let's go back. Before Meng Shichu could respond, her phone rang. It was Pei Jinhui. Answering, Pei Jinhui's heavy voice came through. 500 meters behind you. Meng Shichu turned around and was startled to see Pei Jinhui standing there holding a gift box, and beside him, clutching a bouquet of flowers like a wooden post, was Pei Guangyin. Hua Che couldn't help but suck in a breath. What an awkward showdown. Though on second thought, this wasn't the worst of it. If Pei Guangyin had rushed out just now, that would have been a real showdown. Upon seeing Meng Shichu and Hua Che walking over, Pei Guangyin threw the flowers he was holding and turned to leave. Pei Jinhui picked up the flowers and followed, not forgetting to point out a car not far away to Meng Shichu. This is bad. Dad's angry, Hua Che said with concern. Meng Shichu said, then he'll have to be coaxed. Hua Che found this hard to believe, turning his head to look at Shichu. Do you know how to coax people? In all the time they had lived together, Meng Shichu could state facts and lay out logic, but she didn't coax. My brother will coax him, Meng Shichu said. Hua Che couldn't help but laugh. He knew it would be like that. Don't worry, I'm here too. Good. Inside the car, the driver had been dismissed. Pei Guangyin sat in the back, lit a cigarette, and took a harsh drag, the smoke making him choke and cough. After finally calming down, he took another big drag, only to choke again. Stop smoking, you quit so many years ago. Pei Jinhui reached out to take the cigarette from his hand, but Pei Guangyin dodged, and the ash fell on the back of Pei Jinhui's hand, making him suck in a breath of pain. Pei Guangyin paid it no mind, continuing to choke and smoke, and choke. Meng Shichu pulled open the car door, just in time to see Pei Guangyin, who had turned his face away, his eyes red from the smoke. As Pei Guangyin scrambled to hide, Meng Shichu closed the car door, turned to open the driver's door, and gave Hua Che a look. Understanding, Hua Che walked around the front of the car to the passenger seat. The air in the car was stagnant. Meng Shichu started the car and drove towards the city, with several cars following behind at a distance, providing an escort. No one spoke the entire way. Pei Guangyin, however, smoked one cigarette after another. Pei Jinhui tried to snatch them away, but was forced back by Pei Guangyin's bloodshot glare. Meng Shichu first opened the sunroof, but the smoke was too thick, even choking Huoche in the front. In the end, Meng Shichu lowered all the windows, unable to hold back a couple of coughs herself. Pei Guangyin looked out the window, his hand extended outside. The rushing wind from the speeding car was refreshing. His fingers loosened, and the cigarette between them fell. After that, he didn't smoke again. The car returned to the Pei family's old residence. Just as they entered the main hall, they ran into second Uncle Pei Guangyun, who was rushing out. Seeing the group return, Pei Guangyun directly asked Pei Jinhui, "Did your mother come to cause trouble again? Did she smash all that stuff in there?" Pei Jinhui nodded. Pei Guangyun was furious. What on earth does Sang Lan want? Hasn't she made Big Brother suffer enough? Years ago, she had abandoned her husband and son to elope with someone. The Pei family, to save face for the Sang family, had publicly claimed she had gone traveling and disappeared, even feigning a search. After years with no news, the court granted a divorce. Then she came back with 2 illegitimate children to cause trouble. By then, Big Brother had just managed to recover from the failure of his marriage and had met a woman he liked. They were getting along well when Sang Lan slandered the woman as a homewrecker, spreading rumors everywhere and forcing her away. Now, the woman had merely come to Kyoto to see her son-in-law, and Sang Lan had used it as an opportunity to cause trouble again. She was simply a madwoman. Pei Guangyin was so angry he put his hands on his hips, while Pei Guangyin, in no mood for any of it, bypassed the crowd, entered the main hall, and went upstairs. Bang! The sound of him slamming the study door was deafening. Everyone in the hall looked up. Pei Guangyun couldn't take it anymore. "I'm going to the Sang family to demand an explanation." He took 2 steps, then turned back to ask Pei Jinhui, "That's your mother. Are you coming or not?" Pei Jinhui had always been reluctant to face Sang Lan. Being asked like this by his second uncle put him in a very difficult position. It wasn't that he hadn't tried to talk to Sang Lan, hoping she would just live peacefully at the Sang residence and not stir up trouble. But Sang Lan was as if possessed. She hated Pei Guangyin. She hated that he hadn't strongly opposed their marriage back then, hated that he hadn't forcefully stopped her when she insisted on leaving, hated that he had sued for divorce after she left, hated that he had brought a strange woman into the Pei home near her son. To Pei Jinhui, it was an inexplicable hatred, but he simply couldn't get through to Sang Lan. She was paranoid, almost pathologically so. Furthermore, the Sang family had suffered some accidents in recent years, their family line dwindling. The 2 children Sang Lan had brought back were especially valued by the Sang family, which only emboldened Sang Lan. Suddenly, the butler hurried over. "Young master, a group of police officers are outside. They say that Mrs. Sang reported that she was assaulted by the master." "Sang Lan is a mad woman." Pei Guanyin cursed. The police were brought in, and they explained their purpose with some difficulty. Pei Jinhui had someone pull up the surveillance footage from the main hall. It clearly showed Sang Lan arriving at lunchtime and immediately starting to smash things. This angered Pei Guangyin, and when he threw something, it hit Sang Lan's forehead. The footage was clear and complete. Pei Guangyun asked, "Can we also sue her for trespassing and property damage?" After taking notes, the police left. Pei Guangyun was in the main hall, fuming and cursing. Suddenly, Meng Shichu turned and started walking upstairs. The hall fell silent, and several pairs of eyes turned to look at her. Meng Shichu paused, turned back, and raised her hand. "Second uncle, please continue." With that, she turned and went up the stairs without looking back. Pei Guangyun's anger was interrupted, and he couldn't continue. He said to Pei Jinhui, "Sang Lan is a psycho." Then he left in a huff. The most awkward person was Huoche, who didn't know what to do. Seeing Pei Jinhui's exceptionally grim face, he offered some comfort. "It's all right, big bro. This has nothing to do with you." He was a victim too. Although the Pei family was one of the 3 major wealthy families, the Sang family was not weak either. Most importantly, one branch of the Sang family had been involved in politics for 3 generations. A direct confrontation would not end well. The so-called wealthy families only looked glamorous on the surface. Only those within knew how much they were constrained by circumstances. Upstairs, Meng Shichu knocked on the study door. There was no sound from inside. She knocked again. Pei Guangyin's suppressed roar came from within. "All of you leave." Meng Shichu continued to knock. Pei Guanyin roared, "Get out!" Crash! A huge sound echoed. Downstairs, Che and Pei Jinhui rushed upstairs. But inside the study, Pei Guangyin, who had stood up in a rage, saw that it was Meng Shichu, and his fury instantly subsided by more than half. "It's you, little Chu. I'm sorry, Dad didn't know it was you." Glancing at the wooden door that was barely hanging on its frame, Pei Guangyin sat back down. Meng Shichu walked in and sat on the sofa opposite him. "I'm fine. You and Che can go do whatever you need to do," Pei Guangyin said again, his voice filled with exhaustion. Just as Meng Shichu was about to speak, Pei Guangyin said again, "Little Chu, don't worry, I don't blame you. I know she didn't want to see me. It's my problem. It has nothing to do with you, or Jinhui, or anyone else. Dad, you're not at fault either." As Meng Shichu spoke, she stood up, poured a glass of warm water, and sat down next to Pei Guangyin. Handing the glass to him, she said, "Since the day I was born, Mom has never said anything bad about you. It's just, they were fated to be apart, destined not to become a family. No, it is my problem. It's my fault." Pei Guangyin interrupted Meng Shichu's comfort. He turned his head, his red-rimmed eyes looking at her. "It was my incompetence, not daring to confront the Sang family head-on. It was my cowardice, too many reservations holding me back. And it was my stubbornness, getting trapped in my feelings and unable to escape. It was me." Cough. Pei Guangyin's voice suddenly stopped. He turned his head to the side and spewed a large mouthful of blood, then slumped sideways onto the sofa. Pei Guangyin was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. After emergency surgery, he was saved but remained unconscious in the intensive care unit. A joint consultation of leading experts was held, but the results were not optimistic. In the specialist's office, Meng Shichu and Pei Jinhui listened to the doctor's findings in disbelief. Depression. Pei Jinhui highly suspected he had misheard. "My dad seems perfectly normal. How could he have this illness?" Meng Shichu remained silent. The specialist said, "Based on the results of various tests, Chairman Pei has been taking antidepressant medication for a long time, and his symptoms have become somatic. He has sleep disorders and decreased energy. Some of the old scars on his body were likely self-inflicted during his most severe periods." Coming out of the specialist's office, Pei Jinhui was like a man who had lost his soul. His father, such a towering and powerful man who led the entire Pei family. How could he have depression? And according to the doctor, it had been for many years. As a son, he had never once noticed. Slap. Pei Jinhui viciously slapped himself across the face. He was about to do it again when Meng Shichu stopped him. "Has the family doctor been changed?" Pei Jinhui, stunned for a moment, came to his senses and nodded. "Yes, I'll have someone find him." That night, Pei Jinhui found the Pei family's former family doctor. The result of the inquiry was staggering. The first doctor said, after Madame went missing, the chairman was very down for a period of time. He experienced insomnia and loss of appetite. There had been a marriage of two families for mutual benefit, a union initiated by the Sang family. Even though neither party had feelings for the other, they had still married. After the wedding, Pei Guangyin had tried to make the marriage work, but his wife still abandoned him and their son to elope. She had run away, not even wanting her own child. That decisiveness had trampled on Pei Guangyin's dignity and shattered his self-respect. It was also a time when Father Pei's health was failing, and the future of the entire Pei family fell on his shoulders as the eldest son. His wife's betrayal, the pressure of the family, his pitiable son, all these complexities crushed the man. The chairman was in a very difficult place back then, but he knew he couldn't fall. He tried to heal himself, but only got worse, and his medication dosage kept increasing. The family doctor sighed. His condition started to improve with the appearance of Miss Meng. After Meng Ling appeared, the two fell for each other and moved towards a relationship, and Pei Guangyin's condition gradually improved. He was at his happiest during the year he was discussing marriage with Meng Ling. His son also liked Meng Ling and had even started calling her mom. He was being healed. Unfortunately, fate had other plans, and it was all a fleeting joy. His ex-wife caused trouble, sowed discord, spread rumors. Miss Meng didn't want to get involved and left. Because he had to consider the bigger picture, Pei Guangyin couldn't let the Pei family clash with the Sang family. He was also a man prone to overthinking, and the result was a relapse of his illness. At his worst, he even engaged in self-harm. To keep it from the outside world, Pei Guangyin hid it even from his family, taking medication on his own, trying to recover by himself, and holding on with the sheer force of his obsession with the family's future and the thought that his child was still young. After listening, Pei Jinhui was thunderstruck. His father had endured this alone for so many years. How had he managed? After sending the retired doctor away, Meng Shichu asked Pei Jinhui. According to the doctor, Dad's suppressed emotions have erupted all at once. He might not wake up for a while, or he might never wake up at all. Pei Jinhui buried his head in his hands, his fingers raking through his hair. Meng Shichu grabbed his hands, only to hear him say, "I don't deserve to be a son. He was so sick, and I never knew." There's no point in assigning blame now. The news of Dad's illness will spread quickly. The Pei family needs a head, and the company needs someone to stabilize the situation. Second uncle has a fiery temper and average ability, and second brother is always abroad. If you don't step up, the Pei family might be the next family. Then, only two of Kyoto's 3 great families would remain. Pei Jinhui nodded. I know. He knew all of it, but self-blame and guilt were besieging him. The butler led the current family doctor in. The doctor said, "The chairman has indeed been on medication. He is very strong and has always been able to hold on. His condition has been much better in the past year." Pei Jinhui looked at Meng Shichu. It's because Dad found out about Little Chu's existence. And through tireless efforts, he had brought Meng Shichu to Kyoto and acknowledged her into the Pei family. For Pei Guangyuan, that must have been something worth being happy about for a very, very long time. When second uncle Pei Guangyuan heard about this, he was furious. It's all Sang Lan's fault. The one who should be dead is Sang Lan. They were the ones who came for the marriage alliance, and Sang Lan ran off with someone and then used threats and bribes to stop us from calling it an elopement. Why should my big brother have to bear all the consequences? Second uncle was so angry he was throwing things, his eyes bloodshot. He had long wanted to rush to the Sang family to beat someone up, to stab someone, but his big brother always advised him to think of the Pei family's future, to think of the future generations, and not to be impulsive. For the Pei family, for the children, but never for himself. What was the point of a family thriving like this? It was nearly midnight when Meng Shichu returned to Haitang Courtyard. Hua Che, who had returned earlier, had already drawn a bath for her. A bath will help you relax. Thank you for your trouble. It's my duty. Hua Che gently patted her on the back. Meng Shichu took a bath. When she came out, Hua Che was already waiting with a hairdryer. Not refusing, she let Hua Che dry her hair for her. After getting ready and lying in bed, Hua Che held Meng Shichu, comforting her gently. Dad is a good man with heaven's protection. He'll be fine. Meng Shichu sighed lightly. In truth, she wasn't deeply moved. Perhaps it was because they had spent too little time together. The father-daughter bond between her and Pei Guangyuan wasn't very deep. She even felt that Pei Guangyuan was somewhat weak, knowing that his depression was related to his marriage and relationships. How could love be everything in life? A man of learning, ability, looks, and wealth, a man above others. How could he fall ill over a relationship? The sorrow in her heart was minuscule. She was even angry at him for not fighting harder. At this moment, Meng Shichu wondered if she was too cold-hearted. Perhaps she was. She just didn't understand. To say Pei Guangyuan was weak and not brave enough. Yet he had managed to endure the torment of depression for so many years on his own. Sensing Meng Shichu's heavy thoughts, Hua Che comforted her again. It's okay. Everything will get better. That night, Meng Shichu had mild insomnia. She spent half the night in self-reflection, with no conclusion. Early the next morning, the news of Pei Wanhai's chairman, Pei Guangyuan, being critically ill still spread. All sorts of speculation arose in their circle. Competitors would surely take action, and even internal strife might be stirred up within the group. Meng Shichu and Hua Che met Pei Jinhui at the hospital. Meng Shichu said, "Big bro, you can do this. When a key figure in a corporation has an accident, it will inevitably affect the group. That's normal." Her marriage to the Hua family was still intact. The current situation could be stabilized. It was just a matter of time. Hua Che also stated his position. The Hua family stands with the Pei family. After all, they had already formed an alliance of interests, so they naturally wouldn't stand by and do nothing. I know, you don't have to worry. Pei Jinhui lowered his head and suddenly said, "After this situation stabilizes, I plan to settle accounts with my mother." Meng Shichu's lips twitched, but she said nothing. Sang Lan was Pei Jinhui's biological mother. Once he settled accounts, regardless of whether he was strong enough to contend with the Sang family, he would likely be drowned in public condemnation afterwards. In this information age, most people only care about the result, not the process. The result would be a son settling accounts with his biological mother, an act of great disrespect, intolerable by heaven and earth. Hua Che dropped Meng Shichu off at Lin Shin Design and even accompanied her upstairs. As soon as they stepped out of the elevator, they saw staff moving potted plants and other decorative items. It seemed they were headed for her office. Jiang Wen came up to greet them. Meng Shichu asked, "Did you all buy these?" They said the young master ordered them. "Didn't you know, young miss?" Jiang Wen looked at Hui Che. Meng Shichu also looked at Hui Che. He rubbed his nose and said, "That day I came to pick you up for lunch. I saw this place was very empty, so I ordered some things." Meng Shichu understood. An apology gift. I had someone pick them out before the argument. Hui Che was a little embarrassed. Meng Shichu said, "I didn't over-decorate because this is just a temporary office. The company's office building is under construction and we can move in after the new year. I was planning to do all this then. Besides, she was often on business trips, so the office was rarely used. We can just move them over then." Hui Che said, then changed his mind. "No, the new office space should have all new things. I'll get you a new set." "That's not necessary. We could just move these over. I can't just throw away your thoughtful gesture." Meng Shichu stepped toward her office. Hui Che followed her. "I'll have someone help you move them." "All right." Meng Shichu sat in her office chair. The computer had already been turned on by Jiang Wen. On her desk were documents to be processed, and to her right, an open folder displayed today's schedule. Seeing that Hui Che had no intention of leaving, Meng Shichu put down the schedule and asked, "Is it Monday? Don't you have a regular meeting at your tech company, or a meeting to attend at Rongchen?" What was he doing staying here? Hui Che propped his hands on the edge of the desk and asked directly, "Otherwise, should I go handle the Xia Yin matter?" The chairman of Wanhai was critically ill, and competitors were already taking action on all fronts. They had even brought up the issue between him and Xia Yin, claiming that his marriage to Meng Shichu was about to fail in an attempt to stir up trouble and destabilize the Pei Corporation. He thought Meng Shichu surely had no mind to deal with Xia Yin. Meng Shichu said, "I've already sent someone to Xia Corporation to pass a message to Xia Yunhao. She wouldn't forget the things she had to do. They were all noted in her schedule. Whether it was her status as the Pei family's daughter or the Hua family's young madam. As long as Xia Yunhao was notified, the Xia family would obediently let Xia Yin out to see her." Hui Che hadn't expected Meng Shichu to have already handled this. He asked again, "Shall I go with you?" Meng Shichu shook her head. "No need. If you go, she'll think you still have feelings for her." "I don't." Hui Che immediately shook his head. "I just think Xia Yin won't listen to reason, and you can't reason with her logically. I'm afraid your methods won't work on her." The reborn Xia Yin carried the accumulated hysteria from her past life. She lacked the peaceful stability she should have had at this time. The woman was mad. Meng Shichu looked up and smiled. "I have my ways to make her listen. All right then, I'll wait for your victory report." After Hui Che left, Meng Shichu immersed herself in her work, paying no attention to the rampant discussions outside. She spent the morning in remote meetings, and after handling the briefs and plans for several of her companies, she felt a little drowsy. The coffee wasn't working, the result of not sleeping well last night. At noon, Meng Shichu left with Jiang Wu. At a window seat in the Kaiwa Hotel, although it was lunchtime, only 2 or 3 tables in the dining hall were occupied. Xia Yin and Xia Yunhao were both there. Seeing Meng Shichu approach, Xia Yunhao quickly stood up and extended his hand with a sycophantic smile. "Madam Hua, hello. We just arrived as well." "Hui Che isn't here. Just call me CEO Meng." Meng Shichu ignored his attempt to shake hands, walking past him and sitting down in the chair opposite. Xia Yunhao awkwardly retracted his hand. After sitting down, he asked curiously, "I wonder, So Meng, what is the purpose of your invitation?" "Rest assured, CEO Meng, what happened the day before yesterday was just an accident. We weren't intentionally following you and CEO Hua." Xia Yunhao began to explain first. They couldn't afford to provoke the Hua family, so when they realized Hui Che had truly cut ties with Xia Yin, they didn't dare to pursue the matter further. Instead, they had arranged a new marriage for Xia Yin. They had originally thought that after breaking with Hui Che, they could at least secure a marriage alliance with the Su family, but who knew that Su Zhezhou had gotten engaged to someone else? They could only arrange for Xia Yin to marry someone else to benefit the Xia family. Who would have thought Xia Yin would pretend to obey and then run away? She had almost managed to get on the plane. Ignoring Xia Yunhao's monologue, Meng Shichu waited until he had finished and the scene had quieted down before she finally spoke. "I'd like to have a few words with Miss Xia." Xia Yunhao was taken aback, then tried to recover. "CEO Meng, my sister has a strange temperament. I'm afraid she might hurt you." Meng Shichu stared at him without speaking. Xia Yunhao had no choice but to get up reluctantly. Before leaving, he warned Xia Yin, "Don't do anything to hurt CEO Meng, and don't say anything CEO Meng doesn't want to hear, understand?" Xia Yin glanced sideways, her eyes full of resentment. Xia Yin gave her a cold glare and warned in a low voice, "If you dare to disobey me, I'll deal with you." After Xia Yin left, the waiter began to serve the food. 6 dishes and a soup were served one after another, nearly filling the small rectangular table. After the waiter left, Meng Shichu showed no intention of speaking, instead helping herself to the food. In the end, it was Xia Yin who couldn't hold back. "Meng Shichu, you don't have to play games with me. Did you read the documents I sent to your company? Well written. You could consider writing novels." Meng Shichu didn't deny it. Xia Yin gripped the edge of the table with both hands. "Aren't you curious about Huiche's ending? Is that why you didn't continue sending them?" Meng Shichu smiled. Leaving it at a cliffhanger was indeed a way to build suspense. Unfortunately, she had never been a particularly curious person. "Isn't this the reason you sought me out?" Xia Yin retorted. Meng Shichu smiled. "You think so?" The other's composure made Xia Yin's heart flutter with panic. She forced herself to calm down. "Meng Shichu, I'm telling you, I've been reborn. So has Huiche. He hasn't told you your ending, has he?" Meng Shichu raised an eyebrow, pointed a finger at her own temple, and said to Xia Yin, "I think you should get your brain checked first." "You don't believe me?" Xia Yin gritted her teeth. Why did everyone think she was a lunatic with wild fantasies whenever she said this? Su Zizhou didn't believe her, the Xia family didn't believe her, and Meng Shichu didn't believe her. No one believed her. Xia Yin felt an unprovoked rage and said directly, "The ending is that I used myself as bait to get revenge on Huiche. I wanted him to die, and he was indeed arrested." Seeing that Meng Shichu's expression didn't change, Xia Yin gritted her teeth and continued, "Huiche loved me too much. Whatever I wanted, he gave me, including his life. The whole family could have saved him, but he didn't want me to be sad, so he voluntarily confessed and asked for the death penalty. Before he died, he even spent a huge sum to set up a medical team for my treatment. Even after what those people did to me, he still wanted to marry me. He truly had his love for me carved into his bones. Meng Shichu, you and Huiche are just in a business marriage. There are no feelings between you. As long as I go to Huiche, he will still choose me. Do you want to make a bet?" Meng Shichu didn't answer, simply ladling 2 spoonfuls of soup into her bowl. But the emotionally charged Xia Yin pushed her hands against the table, leaning forward to get closer to Meng Shichu. "Let's stage a play. We both get kidnapped, and you see whether Huiche saves me or you." Meng Shichu looked up, a smile in her eyes, her expression unreadable. Suddenly, she picked up the bowl of soup, extended it, and tilted it. The scalding soup poured onto the back of Xia Yin's hand. "Ah!" Xia Yin cried out and snatched her hand back. A large patch of skin on the back of her hand was already red from a burn. She looked around and saw that the few scattered diners merely glanced over before continuing with their meals. Her cries went unanswered. Neither the restaurant staff nor the owner came over. She was so furious her features twisted, and she roared at Meng Shichu. "Meng Shichu, are you crazy? What's the point of targeting me just because you can't win a man's heart?" Her voice echoed through the hall, yet it still didn't draw any other attention. Meng Shichu wiped her hand with a napkin, her casual, cool voice slipping from her lips. "Even you know to pull away when you're in pain. Huiche isn't an idiot." These words stunned Xia Yin into silence, her mouth slightly agape, a torrent of words stuck in her throat. Putting down the used napkin, Meng Shichu looked up. "What do you take Huiche for? Some kind of masochist?" Xia Yin clutched the back of her hand, feeling as if something had struck her deep inside, shattering the pride she had once built. "That's right. Even an idiot knows to pull away from pain, let alone Huiche, a reincarnator who had experienced a tragic end in his past life. Right after she was reborn, she had even thought Huiche might hate her, might seek revenge on her. Why was she so sure now that Huiche loved her to the bone? Why? She couldn't find a reason, but she was unwilling to be manipulated by the Xia family for her entire life. She had to escape. Now was her chance. She tensed her jaw and stared at Meng Shichu. "You don't dare to bet with me, because you know very well that Huiche doesn't love you. If you test it, you will definitely lose." "Hey." Meng Shichu laughed out loud. She picked up the teapot, poured herself a cup, and sipped it leisurely. Her laugh seemed to carry a hint of mockery, making Xia Yin very uncomfortable. "What are you laughing at? A marriage of convenience. A husband who didn't even love her. What was there to be proud of?" Xia Yin felt that Meng Shichu's behavior was merely to cover up the fact that she was not loved. The more you act like this, the more it proves that Huiche doesn't love you. Having convinced herself of this in her heart, Xia Yin launched another attack on Meng Shichu. For a woman, being unloved by her husband in a marriage, how pitiful and tragic is that? Do you know how well Hua Che used to treat me? Whatever I wanted, he gave me. No matter how I treated him, he always protected me, even to the point of turning against the Hua family. Even when I hurt and plotted against him, Hua Che never said a harsh word to me. And every time I got angry and ran away, he would send people to find me. They would never treat me roughly. Those people were so polite to me. Xia Yin triumphantly went on a long tirade, all about how good Hua Che was to her, how he cherished her. It was as if he held her in his palm, afraid she would fall, and in his mouth, afraid she would melt. Meng Shichu rested her elbow on the table, holding the teacup in her hand, the rim at her lips, taking small sips of tea. When Xia Yin finished her speech and looked at her smugly, she confidently declared, "Hua Che doesn't love you. You're just a tool in a business marriage." How pitiful. Meng Shichu merely replied with a light and breezy tone. Hua Che raised a stray dog for that many years, and it would have learned to wag its tail. How come he raised you and you never learned? You. A single sentence choked Xia Yin, leaving her speechless again. Her mind was in chaos, the confidence she had just built up collapsing once more. She had been gloating for so long, only to be judged by Meng Shichu as worse than a stray dog. Humiliation. The ultimate humiliation. Without giving her a chance to react, Meng Shichu spoke again. "Listening to you go on for so long, I've only come to one conclusion. Without Hua Che, your life is a complete mess." "What right do you have to say that about me?" Xia Yin retorted sharply. Meng Shichu raised a hand. "Is it not true? Where's your true love? Your family? Your friends?" A fatal triple question, each one a mortal blow. The color drained from Xia Yin's face, inch by inch. The fury in her eyes first dissipated, then flared up even more intensely. She was furious from the shame. "You, a woman unloved by her husband, have no right to talk to me." Xia Yin shot up from her seat, her emotions running high. At the same time, the other diners all stood up and looked their way. Some were already approaching quickly. Xia Yin turned her head and saw several burly men with cold, fierce glares. She realized what was happening and glared viciously at Meng Shichu. "You're just jealous of me." Meng Shichu raised her hand, and the approaching bodyguards stopped and retreated. She tapped her fingers on the table, once then again. "Am I jealous of you for having nothing but an empty shell, for being someone who would die without a man?" As she spoke, she slowly stood up. "Miss Xia, I have no interest in playing your little testing games. To me, marriage is about benefits, and also a spice of life. And the man you can't live without is someone I've never considered a necessity. Besides men, I also possess vast wealth. I will have a brilliant future. I have family and friends, and also dear companions. If my husband is an outstanding man, a harmonious marriage with him would be the icing on the cake of my life. But without him, I will still flourish." Meng Shichu's demeanor was calm throughout, her words spoken lightly, without any sense of urgency or emotional fluctuation. Yet every word was like a heavy bell, striking deep into Xia Yin's heart and mind. Her previous pride and smugness vanished without a trace. Xia Yin's lips trembled. She suddenly snatched the chopsticks from the table, gripping them tightly in her hand. An attack stance. Meng Shichu glanced at her and sneered, "Want to try?" She raised her hand, and the friction of her fingertips made a sound. All the diners came over, each one tall and imposing. Besides them, bodyguards also surrounded them from outside the window. Xia Yin's hand was trembling. She moved her lips and managed to say, "Meng Shichu, you will get a divorce. Hua Che will cheat on you. This is your destiny. It's what happened in the last life." Meng Shichu's lips curled. "Miss Xia, let me ask you, if I ask the Xia family to send you to a mental hospital, do you think they'll do it?" Xia Yin's eyes widened in horror. "What I'm saying is true. You will be successful in your career, but your marriage will fail." Meng Shichu interrupted. "Do you think you'd be able to get out of a place like that once you're in?" Xia Yin was shaking like a leaf in the wind, gradually breaking down. "Why don't you believe me? Everything I'm saying is true. I'm trying to help you. Are you going to wait until you've been cheated on to believe me?" Meng Shichu's expression turned to one of pity. What a shame. So young, and already mad. Xia Yin. Why couldn't she reason with this woman? Why could the other party always use the calmest words and attitude to shatter her thoughts and sanity into pieces? She had used every trick she had, but Meng Shichu wouldn't take the bait. Xia Yin felt a wave of powerlessness, her mind blank. Clatter, clatter. The chopsticks fell to the ground. Xia Yin also fell, landing on her knees. She looked up, tears overflowing from her red-rimmed, pitiful eyes. Miss Ming, you have everything. I beg you, please give Che back to me, won't you? He's all I have. I can only rely on him. Without him, I'll really die. At this moment, Xia Yin let go of all the pride from her past life, and this one, begging for a single chance. She needed Che's love and protection. Otherwise, she had no standing in the Xia family and would be sold off to an old man in exchange for business interests. Meng Shichu looked down at her, a posture of looking down from a great height. She decisively shook her head. You don't have a chance. Rejected by Meng Shichu, Xia Yin was not ready to give up, nor was she reconciled to it. You have everything. Why do you have to snatch away my only lifeline? Meng Shichu sneered. A belated regret is completely meaningless. Xia Yin claimed over and over that she had been reborn, but even living a second time, she hadn't learned a thing. If she truly had been reborn, it was a waste of a rebirth slot. But she always felt that Xia Yin was simply delusional. Miss Meng, CEO Meng. Xia Yin crawled on her knees to Meng Shichu's feet, reaching out to grab her leg, but she was stopped by the bodyguards. Held fast, she couldn't move and could only gaze up at Meng Shichu. CEO Meng, save me. We are both women. Women shouldn't make things difficult for other women. Help me, please. Help me leave Kyoto. I promise I'll never appear before Che again. I promise. Crying and begging, this was her only chance. But all she got was another rejection. Your business has nothing to do with me. If you continue to pester my husband, the Xia family will have you treated for your mental issues. Xia Yin began to struggle. I saved Che's life. You can't do this to me. Ingratitude will get you struck by lightning. Meng Shichu retorted. Demanding repayment for a favor will also get you struck by lightning. Yep. Xia Yin was once again rendered speechless. Remember, hide yourself well. Don't make a scene. After this reminder, Meng Shichu turned and walked out. Behind her, Xia Yin suddenly shouted, I can promise you I'll never look for Che again, but you have to give me a sum of money. Meng Shichu stopped and turned back to ask, How much do you want? 5 million, Xia Yin said. As long as you give me 5 million, I'll go far, far away. Meng Shichu took a card from her purse and handed it over. Just as Xia Yin reached for it, she suddenly heard Meng Shichu say, There's over 10 million on this card. Joy appeared on Xia Yin's face. This money was enough to buy her freedom from the Xia family. She had to leave this hellish place. Her hand had just touched the bank card when she heard Meng Shichu speak again. Extortion, a huge amount. Have you thought about how you're going to explain this to the police? Xia Yin's gaze toward Meng Shichu trembled, stared at by those seemingly emotionless eyes. Though the other woman's lips were curved into a smile, Xia Yin felt as if her very soul had been pierced, and a cold sweat broke out on her back. She snatched her hand back like lightning, all words caught in her throat. It was as if a voice was saying, You can't win against the woman before you. Are you sure you don't want it? Meng Shichu asked, but she didn't wait for Xia Yin's answer and left directly. The bodyguard behind her also released Xia Yin and followed Meng Shichu out. No longer restrained, Xia Yin collapsed to the ground, sobbing wretchedly and hopelessly. Suddenly, a question from Hua Cheng in her previous life came to mind. Xia Yin, do you really think you defeated Capital? Yes, did she really win against Capital? Perhaps, from beginning to end, she had only won against the Hua Che who loved her. Or perhaps, Hua Che hadn't lost, but had been so utterly disappointed and despondent with her. Confessing his guilt was his way of letting go. That was why he had her sign an agreement to settle all accounts, which detailed how much he had given her in repayment for saving his life, and also specified that he had never touched her. Every clause was meant to cut off any future trouble. Hua Che had completely and thoroughly given up on her, and she was truly a fool, having lived 2 lives without understanding anything. Her family didn't love her, and her lover didn't truly love her. The only person who had been sincere with her, she had driven away with her own actions. When Meng Shichu returned to the company, Jiangwen came up to her. Mr. Hua is waiting in your office. Returning to her office, the first thing Meng Shichu saw was a bouquet of delicate, light yellow flowers. Very beautiful. Hua Che pointed to the food containers and fruit drink on the coffee table. I guess you didn't eat much for lunch. You guessed right. Meng Shichu walked over. She probably won't come looking for you again. Hua Che was very surprised. You really reason with her and talk her around? What's the point of reasoning with an unreasonable person? Meng Shichu found Hua Che's question rather amusing. Hua Che was curious. Do you have times when you're unreasonable? Meng Shichu took a sip of the fruit tea. You wouldn't want to see me when I'm being unreasonable. Hua Che rubbed his chin. That makes sense. For someone with Meng Shichu's immense background, when she reasoned with you, you'd better listen well. When she was being unreasonable, someone was probably going to end up crying. After 2 consecutive weeks of turmoil, internal conflicts within Wanhai Group intensified, and Pei Jinhui was making a strong move to seize power. At this time, the Gu family of Kyoto's aristocracy and Xiao Yunxua, the young master of the Hongmen lineage, lent Pei Jinhui a hand, signing 5-year and 8-year strategic cooperation agreements respectively. Additionally, the marriage alliance between the Pei family's young lady and the Hua family's young master led the Hua family to provide their full support. Pei Jinhui's ascension was successful, and the internal structure of Wanhai Group was initially stabilized. The group's senior management had nothing to say. Just as Wanhai stabilized, Pei Guangyin fell critically ill again. Meng Shichu only found out after finishing a meeting and rushed to the hospital. Second uncle and Pei Jinhui were both there, and Hua Che had also just arrived. Meng Shichu stopped and asked, "What did the doctor say?" Second uncle, Pei Guangyuan, wiped his face with his hand, turned to face the wall, and pressed his forehead against it. Hua Che came closer, took Meng Shichu's hand, and said nothing. Pei Jinhui shook his head. The doctor said to prepare for the worst. Pei Guangyan had suppressed his emotions for many years, building himself into an impenetrable fortress. Now that it had all erupted, the foundations of his body and mind were completely destroyed. His bodily functions were declining rapidly, his organs failing. They couldn't enter the intensive care unit, so Meng Shichu stood outside the door and watched for a while. Her phone rang. It was her assistant, Jiangwen. Meng Shichu answered, and Jiangwen whispered in a hushed voice, Ms. Sang is at the company." Hearing this, Meng Shichu glanced at Pei Jinhui, who was a few steps away. These days, Pei Jinhui had been so busy he had lost weight, and a palpable gloom surrounded him. He blamed himself as a son for not noticing his father's illness, and at the same time, he shouldered the responsibility of the entire Pei family. And behind him was a mother who never stopped causing trouble. Thinking about it, wasn't the current Pei Jinhui just like Pei Guanyin back in the day? Wanted to lie down and give up, but not being able to. Noticing her gaze, Pei Jinhui walked over to her and said, "Go on, you're busy. I'll be here." Now that the man was in the ICU, there was no point in all of them staying here. "Okay." Meng Shichu nodded and also said into the phone, "I'm on my way back." Hua Che left with Meng Shichu. As soon as they entered the elevator, he asked, "Did something happen?" He had clearly seen Meng Shichu frown when she answered the phone. With her personality, a frown meant the matter wasn't simple. Sang Lan went to my company. Meng Shichu didn't hide it. Hua Che's expression turned grim. "She's really..." He couldn't find the words. Anyway, she was even crazier than he had been. Hua Che wanted to go with her, and Meng Shichu didn't refuse. On the way, however, Hua Che suddenly exclaimed, "Huh? This kind of thing is trending too." Meng Shichu tilted her head to look. It was news of Xia Yin's marriage. Her groom-to-be was CEO Tao of Huanqing, a middle-aged entrepreneur whose 2 previous wives had died. The media was quite bold, writing bluntly and dragging Hua Che, who had once pursued Xia Yin, into it for a spin. At the end, they even added a line. "On the wedding day of his unforgettable white moonlight, will young Master Hua appear at the scene?" How exciting. The comments also said that Xia Yin didn't like young masters from wealthy families, but preferred a middle-aged, thrice-married CEO, and that they should calculate the extent of Hua Che's psychological trauma. Hua Che's face darkened as he exited the news article. "She's not showing off in front of me, but she's showing off on my phone. That's just brilliant." Hua Che had exited the news, but the masters of friendly fire in his group chat weren't letting him off the hook. Duan Xiao sent a screenshot of a classic netizen comment. "Young masters are a dime a dozen, but a middle-aged CEO is a real treasure." Another one followed. "I married a thrice-married CEO in my early 20s and took a lifelong shortcut." Lu Jing followed up with a congratulatory picture. "After years of being a simp, she's marrying someone else in a flash? I don't believe it. I'll marry an old man despite him." Xing Yuxiu at Hua Che don't look, it's hate mail. Hua Che at Lu Jing at Duan Xiao were not friends for 10 minutes. Beside him, Meng Shichu saw Hua Che's sour expression and offered a word of comfort. "Don't look at it. Out of sight, out of mind." These days, Wanhai's rivals had been causing trouble, spreading rumors that her marriage with Hua Che was on the rocks. The fact that Xia Yunqian's news could trend was surely due to their pushing. They were probably guessing that Hua Che couldn't really let go of Xia Yin, trying to distract him and make her resent him as well. Such childish tactics, hardly presentable. Although this matter wouldn't really cause a marital crisis, it was indeed disgusting. Hua Che, holding his phone, suggested, "Should we take a picture together?" Meng Shichu nodded. "You take it." As Hua Che raised his phone, Meng Shichu leaned her head slightly toward him, but Hua Che tilted his entire body over. Click! A picture was taken. In the final photo, Meng Shichu happened to be nodding with her eyes lowered in the middle of an adjustment. To Hua Che, it looked like a queen bowing her head with a touch of gentleness. Incredibly beautiful. "I'm going to post this on Weibo," Hua Che said to Meng Shichu, already starting to edit. Meng Shichu didn't object. Go ahead." Soon it was posted. Hua Che showed it to Meng Shichu. "What do you think?" "Hua Che, my wife is the best." Image. After seeing it, Meng Shichu's lips twitched into a stiff smile. "As long as you're happy. Do you mind?" "I don't mind." Meng Shichu shook her head. It was just something she wouldn't do herself. This was Hua Che's personal Weibo account. His followers were either gossip mongers or business partners. Soon, his own company, Xia Technology, reposted the update with the caption, "Our boss's wife is both beautiful and badass." As the car arrived at Linshan Design, Hua Che got a call from Hua Cheng as he was getting out. "I had the company repost for you too. Big brother, you're the best." Hua Cheng snorted. "Stop sucking up. If you dare go to that person's wedding, I'll break your legs." After a brief chat, Hua Che hung up and saw that Rongshan Group's official account had also reposted his update with a high-profile caption, "Young master's moment of awakening. How can a white moonlight compare to an arranged marriage wife?" This time, Hua Che couldn't help but twitch his lips. He sent a WeChat message to Hua Cheng. "Is it really okay to be so direct?" That's the group's official account. "Hua Cheng, the media wants to be direct, so we'll respond directly. There's nothing wrong with it. Be rebellious, fight back hard." Entering the elevator, Hua Che put his phone away. Meng Shichu had been tapping on her phone the whole time, busy with who knows what. Hua Che didn't look or ask, just stood by her side. As they exited the elevator, Jiangwen came up to them, a bodyguard standing like a statue beside her. Ms. Sang is in the reception room. She smashed everything inside," Jiangwen said. As Meng Shichu walked toward the reception room, she said, "Send a list of the damages to the Sang family." The door to the reception room was open, and the floor was a mess. Potted plants, vases, and decorations were scattered everywhere. The coffee table had been overturned and broken. Everything that could be smashed in the room had been smashed. Meng Shichu felt that just sending a list of damages wasn't enough. She said to Jiangwen, "Call the police." At the very least, this person needed to spend a couple of days in detention. Sang Lan heard this and sneered. "Meng Shichu, do you think the police can do anything to me when they get here? Do you really think Kyoto is like that small town you came from? Did she really think the Sang family was some minor household?" Meng Shichu's gaze was indifferent. "I only know that Kyoto is not a lawless land." "Naive." Sang Lan sneered and walked over. When she was 2 steps away, she was stopped by a bodyguard, preventing her from getting any closer. Sang Lan sneered again. "Coward." Hua Che stepped forward, shielding Meng Shichu behind him. "Ms. Sang, you flaunt your family's power like this. Do you really not care about the consequences at all?" "Okay, easy." Sang Lan stared at Hua Che with a cold smile. "Go ask your father if he dares to speak to me like this. Then consider whether you should apologize to me." Without even giving Hua Che a chance to respond, Sang Lan twisted the knife again. "Haven't you seen the news? Your white moonlight, whom you chased for years, is getting married. Her fiancé is 10 or 20 years older than you. Xia Yin would rather have an old man than you. You really should reflect on what's wrong with you." But I guess you wouldn't find anything wrong even if you did reflect. Otherwise, you wouldn't have proposed and married an illegitimate daughter. Sang Lan had a superior air, looking through the gap between the bodyguard and Hua Che at Meng Shichu. "Just like your mother, likes to pick up trash, loves things that others don't want. So cheap and shameless." Sang. Hua Che was enraged, but his arm was suddenly grabbed from behind. Turning around, he saw Meng Shichu's unruffled face. "She's deliberately provoking you," Meng Shichu said calmly. Hua Che was somewhat shocked. Such vile words seemed to have no effect on Meng Shichu. Meng Shichu stepped forward. The bodyguard saw this and took a step to the side, keeping a close watch on Sang Lan's every move. Meng Shichu met Sang Lan's gaze. "I have full surveillance coverage here with audio recording. I will send what you just said to my mother and stepfather. They will handle the part where you verbally insulted my mother." "Tisk, Meng Ling gave birth to such a useless thing?" Sang Lan said mockingly. her eyes full of pity as she looked at Meng Shichu. Sure enough, an unpresentable wild thing. It's at times like these that your pettiness shows. Hua Che was about to go mad with anger, but in contrast, Meng Shichu seemed as if the other's dirty words weren't dirty at all. How could she tolerate it? Meng Shichu was as steady as a mountain. Does Ms. Sang have anything else to say? Of course. Sang Lan glared at Meng Shichu, her gaze sharpening. You don't need me to remind you of your own status. Even if you're the illegitimate daughter of Pei Guangyin and Meng Ling, your surname isn't Pei. Everything in the Pei family has nothing to do with you. Whatever you've taken from the Pei family, you'd better give it back to me. You should know that the Pei family belongs to Jin Huai. You are not worthy of a single penny. Meng Shichu, listen to me. I've seen plenty of women like you, outwardly noble but inwardly cheap. Don't think that just because you know a few people from high society and married into the Hua family, you're safe. If you dare to covet a single cent of my son's property, I'll make you pay. Sang Lan pressed closer. Hua Che and the bodyguard beside Meng Shichu both took a defensive stance. Sang Lan sneered. You'd better go find out what my Sang family does. If you dare to go against me, I have 1,000 ways to make you pay the price. After speaking, Sang Lan stood up straight, her arms crossed over her chest. If you ask me, Meng Ling shouldn't have given birth to you back then. Such a disgrace. Or, Meng Shichu, why don't you just die? Death would solve everything. That would be nice. Amidst Sang Lan's endless mockery, Meng Shichu said calmly, I was waiting for you to hit me. Is that all? This was a shocking statement. Sang Lan didn't understand for a moment. What do you mean? Meng Shichu ignored her, instead raising her phone and speaking directly into it. You heard all that, right? Your mother came looking for trouble with me. You can't blame me for not considering our family ties later. Hearing Meng Shichu's words, Sang Lan was shocked and stunned. It wasn't hard to guess who was on the other end of the line. Pei Jin Huai. Sang Lan flew into a rage, pointing at Meng Shichu. You bitch, you. You actually plotted against me. You're despicable. The relationship between her and her son was already tense. She wanted to help her son secure the entire Pei family's assets to close the distance between them. That was why she had come to see Meng Shichu privately, hoping to make her hand over her Wanhai shares and get out of Kyoto. She had never imagined that Meng Shichu would secretly call Pei Jin Huai. Sang Lan, who had been so arrogant just a moment ago, now had a completely different expression, her features twisted and her eyes bulging with fury. She tried to raise her hand to strike Meng Shichu, but was intercepted by the bodyguard. Meng Shichu hung up, put away her phone, and said with a smile, You're his mother. You came to cause trouble for me, so of course, I had to find him. Sang Lan cursed, You bitch. Bastard. Do you have any more advanced vocabulary? Meng Shichu wasn't hurt by those words. Instead, she countered with a lethal blow. If you ask me, Ms. Sang, you had an affair while married, abandoned your husband and son, committed bigamy, and had more children, abandoned your husband again for wealth, and bullied others with your power. You've completely disregarded ethics, morals, and the law. You've really brought great honor to the 9 generations of the Sang family. You. Sang Lan pointed at Meng Shichu, her chest aching from the retort. Those nasty words were stuck in her throat like thorns, unable to come out. Those untouched scars were now, at this moment, completely exposed by this junior she looked down upon. She felt as if she were being paraded naked. Bits and pieces of her past all came rushing back. Her early life was not glorious, she knew that. But she believed time was a great healer that could cure everything. And with the powerful Sang family as her protective umbrella, no one dared to mention these things in front of her. Yet at this moment, right here, an illegitimate daughter had the audacity to expose her so bluntly. Did she not know the consequences of angering the Sang family? Just then, Pei Jin Huai rushed in. He arrived in a hurry, breathless, with beads of sweat on his forehead. As soon as he entered, he pulled Sang Lan away, then stood by Meng Shichu's side, questioning Sang Lan. What on earth are you trying to do? Isn't it enough that you've harmed the family so terribly? Perhaps from running. Pei Jin Huai's breathing was unsteady. Seeing his angry, red eyes, Sang Lan said, I'm helping you. Why don't you understand? Pei Jin Huai replied, I don't need your help with anything. I haven't encountered any difficulties. Are you a fool? Sang Lan was heartbroken and angry at his lack of ambition. She pointed at Meng Shichu and said, Pei Guangyin is dying. He's lived a solitary life from Meng Ling, and his heart is full of guilt for this illegitimate daughter. Do you think he'll leave his fortune to you when he dies? Pei Jin Huai, do you have any idea about my good intentions? Don't you? Enough. Pei Jinhui roared, on the verge of a breakdown, his brows furrowed tightly, his eyes so red they looked as if they might bleed. It was the first time Sang Lan had seen Pei Jinhui like this, and she was genuinely frightened, as if he might break down and turn into a madman in the next second. Jinhui, don't be like this. Don't be angry, Mom's scared. Sang Lan tried to soothe Pei Jinhui. The moment she reached out her hand, it was mercilessly swatted away. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Sang Lan stumbled back 2 steps, looking at her teetering son. Then, she turned her anger back to Meng Shichu. Meng Shichu, you bitch. Why did you have to drag my Jinhui into this? It was you who came back and took away Jinhui's inheritance. Why do you still treat him like this? Are you insane, Ms. Sang? Pei Jinhui roared. It was you who left. Why did you have to come back and cause chaos? The reason Dad is in this state today is all because of you. If Sang Lan hadn't left back then, would there have been any room for Aunt Meng? And naturally, Meng Shichu wouldn't exist. Why was the instigator still blaming others? What did you say? It was also the first time Pei Jinhui had called her Ms. Sang. Her face turned terribly pale as she stared at him. I'm your mother. I did all this for you. Do you believe it yourself? Pei Jinhui retorted. Sang Lan's lips twitched as she questioned. What did I do wrong? I never wanted to marry him in the first place. My family forced me. I had no choice. Do you think Dad had a choice? He's a man. Why didn't he resist? He could have refused. Pei Jinhui only felt dizzy. You're truly unreasonable. Sang Lan's hatred for Pei Guangyin was etched into her bones, as stubborn as a malignant tumor that couldn't be removed unless she died. It was at this most tense moment that the police arrived. The lead officer was stunned to see Meng Shichu. This woman certainly liked to call the police. Meng Shichu had someone pull up the surveillance footage. It clearly showed Sang Lan inexplicably smashing things and uttering personal attacks. Knowing Sang Lan's identity, the police preferred to mediate. The implication was that the matter would be settled if Sang Lan offered some compensation. Meng Shichu shook her head. No reconciliation. Hearing this, Sang Lan warned coldly. Meng Shichu, you'd better think carefully. The price of opposing the Sang family was not something she could afford. Meng Shichu maintained her initial attitude, as steady as a mountain, unhurried. No reconciliation, she then said to the lead officer. Arrest her, or I'll sue you all along with her. Sang Lan was thoroughly enraged. Meng Shichu, do you still want to make a living in Kyoto? Worst case, I'll leave Kyoto and go back to U City, or to Lu City. She said it lightly, but with a provocative air. Not only that, Meng Shichu also said to her assistant, Jiang Wen, assemble the lawyers, sue Sang Lan. Yes, miss. The police were in a difficult position. Meng Shichu was too rigid. Things having come to this, they could only ask Sang Lan to come with them for a chat, and they would try to negotiate later. Sang Lan was so angry, she started to laugh. Fine, fine, very good. Meng Shichu, you just wait. Okay. Meng Shichu gestured with her hand. Please. Sang Lan left with the police. Just as the scene quieted down and Hui Che was about to say something to Meng Shichu, he saw her speak to Pei Jinhui first. She cursed my mother. This matter won't be settled. Sorry, the Mengs are going to take action. After the warning, without waiting for Pei Jinhui's reaction, Meng Shichu turned and walked out. Big brother this. Hui Che didn't know what to say. He was about to chase after Meng Shichu when he suddenly saw Pei Jinhui collapse to the ground. He quickly caught him and shouted, Someone, young Master Pei has fainted. In the office, Jiang Wu rushed in. Miss, young Master Pei has fainted. Meng Shichu said, have someone send him to the hospital. Jiang Wu replied, someone's already on it. Meng Shichu's face was grim. She continued to instruct Jiang Wen, package the video and audio recordings and send them back. Don't send them to my mother. Ning Chuan was known for being vengeful and protective. His security group was unlike ordinary commercial enterprises. Boyan Security had developed over the years, its network spreading far and wide, intricate and deep, with ties to the military. A mere branch of the Sang family involved in politics was nothing Ning Chuan would take seriously. As Jiang Wen took notes, Meng Shichu continued, send the damage bill to the Sang family. Use the information channels from U City to find the man who eloped with Sang Lan back then. If he's alive, find him and bring him back. Pinpoint the places Sang Lan lived after she eloped. Investigate the specific birth information of her 2 children to prove her bigamy. As for that branch of the Sang family in politics, a sharp, dangerous glint suddenly appeared in Meng Shichu's eyes. I'm quite curious about just how clean they are. Jiang Wen recorded each of Meng Shichu's instructions. Beside her, Jiang Wu's eyes showed a hint of excitement. Was the young miss about to stir up a storm of blood and gore? How exciting! After finishing her notes, Jiang Wen asked, "Is there anything else to add, miss? Sang Lan came looking for trouble with me. Doesn't she have another son and daughter? Find something for them to do as well." Huiche helped the assistant get the unconscious Pei Jinhui into the car. The bodyguard and assistant who came with Pei Jinhui were also there, so Huiche didn't get in. After giving some instructions, the car sped off. Huiche immediately turned back. He went straight to Meng Shichu's office as soon as he got out of the elevator. The door was closed. Huiche didn't push it open directly, but knocked politely. The door opened a crack, revealing Jiang Wu's face. "Miss, it's Mr. Hua. Let him in." The door was fully opened, and Jiang Wu stepped aside to make way. "Please come in, Mr. Hua." Huiche strode in, walking directly towards Meng Shichu. Meng Shichu was sitting in her chair. In front of the desk, Jiang Wen held a pen, writing something in a notebook. Just as Huiche approached Meng Shichu, Jiang Wen finished writing and closed the notebook. "Miss, shall I go make the arrangements now?" "Go ahead." Jiang Wen and Jiang Wu left together. Huiche was very curious about what matter required using paper and pen instead of a laptop or tablet. The door opened and closed, and the office fell silent. Shichu. Huiche had just started to speak when he was interrupted by Meng Shichu, who asked, "I have no intention of reconciling with the Sang family. There's bound to be a fierce battle in the coming days. Do you want to save your own skin?" Huiche immediately frowned. "What do you mean?" Meng Shichu said bluntly, "Draw a clear line with me. That way, the Sang family's anger won't drag the Hua family into this. So when trouble comes, your first thought is to draw a line with me?" Huiche's tone began to harden, a touch of displeasure he couldn't hide. Meng Shichu said, "Under normal circumstances, those in business don't go against those in politics." It was a thankless task. This was reality, but completely triggered a sensitivity in Huiche. He stared at Meng Shichu and asked bluntly, "Meng Shichu, in your eyes, am I that kind of irresponsible man? I just feel there's no need to drag the Hua family into this." Meng Shichu put down her pen and met Huiche's gaze. "When you proposed to me, we were both driven by mutual benefit. We have indeed created considerable value during this time. Now, something has come up on my end that will inevitably affect both our interests. I'm just being rational. In the pursuit of profit, one must always move forward. There's no sense in moving backward." Her rational analysis, weighing the gains and losses of every interest, was so logical it filled Huiche's heart with stifled anger. He crouched down in front of Meng Shichu, taking her casually hanging hand. "Meng Shichu, I admit that when I proposed, I was thinking about our combined interests, and even had the selfish motive of cutting off my own retreat. I even thought that after marriage, we could live a life of mutual respect like my parents, but I never once thought about separating. The proposal was an impulsive act on my part, but I will be responsible for my impulse. It's been 3 months since we got married. Except for the half month you were on a business trip at the beginning, we've been together for 2 full months. In your eyes, am I really just a cowardly, selfish, and irresponsible bastard?" "You've misunderstood." Meng Shichu shook her head. "Of course not." Huiche was very good. He was gentle, he was bright, he was simple, he was straightforward, he was meticulous. He was like a gentle spring breeze, bit by bit seeping into her life, which had been as still as an old well for years. Even someone as clueless about life as her felt that her world had become much brighter. The occasional bickering between them was a new experience. She didn't dislike that feeling. There was joy and anger, as if she were alive and no longer as boring as before. It was just that, in her view, saving one's own skin when trouble arose was a very normal choice. Responsibility, in the face of interests, could be appropriately pushed aside. After all, she and Huiche didn't have the kind of deep love where they couldn't live without each other. Because Huiche was crouching, he was looking up with a somber face, a look of grievance and anger. Meng Shichu added, "You are very good, better than the 2 I met before." "Then why are you still pushing me away?" Meng Shichu explained. Sang Lan wasn't wrong about one thing. It's not suitable for the Hua family to get involved. I'll have my brother temporarily disown me from the Hua family. How about that? Huiche said, already pulling out his phone. Just as he opened his contacts, Meng Shichu took the phone from him. "You're overthinking it." Huiche grabbed Meng Shichu's hand and held it tightly. "I know my background isn't as strong as yours. My problem-solving skills and decisiveness aren't as good as yours. My brain probably isn't as good as yours, and the network I can mobilize is definitely not as good as yours. I also know that the Hua family alone is not enough to take on the Sang family. In the end, It will surely result in mutual destruction or only the whole family being severely wounded. I also can't guarantee that I can persuade my parents to stand with me without hesitation. I've made too many mistakes in the past. I'm not the head of the whole family. I don't have the power to make them do as I say. I am quite useless, but I will do everything in my power to help you, even though you probably don't need it. The man was sincere and serious, with no intention of staying out of it. Meng Shichu didn't know which of his words it was, but the tense expression from her earlier hidden anger began to relax, and finally, a smile curved her lips, the coldness in her eyes gone. She reached out and hooked Hua Che's chin. Why are you being so dramatic? It's not a big deal. It's not like the end of the world is coming. You were about to cast me aside, Hua Che said. You didn't see me as your husband. Meng Shichu smiled. I was just giving you a choice. Do I need that kind of choice? Meng Shichu didn't answer, but instead brought up another matter. When I was 19, a senior confessed his feelings to me. I had never been in a relationship, so I thought it wouldn't hurt to try. Although he didn't know why she was suddenly talking about her past, Hua Che was still very curious. And then, Meng Shichu said, we've dated for 2 months. Because of an accidental fight, I broke someone's ribs. The other party was the only son of a local dignitary. The senior knew I was just CEO Ning's stepdaughter, so he broke up with me. Hua Che asked, were you sad? I didn't feel anything. Meng Shichu shook her head. He just said that in an equal relationship, both parties should have the right to choose, just as he chose to confess to me and then chose to break up with me. He couldn't be dragged down just because I got into a fight, even though the main fault in the fight wasn't mine. Hua Che said he wasn't worthy. He had no sense of responsibility. Wrong. Meng Shichu shook her head. Evading responsibility is a human instinct, just like how people sometimes choose to lie to protect themselves. Hua Che's face twitched. Meng Shichu, your rationality is terrifying. So calm and composed it was frightening. She had probably never lost control of her emotions. Had she? Many people have said that. Meng Shichu nodded. I never thought about changing. It's a good thing. People who always stay clear-headed have a lower chance of getting hurt. Hua Che nodded. It was just that sometimes they could unintentionally hurt the people closest to them. But that was okay. He could handle it. Hua Che's chin dipped in Meng Shichu's hand. In the future, don't think about cutting me out of it when trouble comes. I'm useless enough as it is. Don't make it so I can't even be by your side when you're going through difficulties. Meng Shichu felt a place in her heart suddenly fill up with something. It ached a little, but it was also warm. She suddenly smiled. Such a smooth-talking mouth. It would be a real pity not to practice kissing with it. The moonlight spread, and the stars shone brightly. By the window of a private hospital room, Meng Shichu sat in a chair. Her laptop suddenly indicated low battery. Her fingers paused. She exited the page, closed the laptop, and set it down. Then she casually picked up the tablet from the adjacent table and continued. A sound suddenly came from the hospital bed. Meng Shichu turned her head to see that Pei Jinhui was awake. Pei Jinhui felt dizzy, his head feeling as if it were about to explode. Meng Shichu put down her tablet, got up to pour a glass of warm water, and walked to the bedside. As Pei Jinhui propped himself up, she lent him a hand. Once he was sitting up against the headboard, she handed him the glass of water. Pei Jinhui took the glass, saw the 4-needle on the back of his hand, and asked, "What's wrong with me?" "The same as Dad." Meng Shichu's answer was simple and extremely direct. Pei Jinhui's eyes shot up. The water glass in his hand trembled, splashing water out. His expression was stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief. "It couldn't be true." "It's true," Meng Shichu said. "It's not severe yet. You can get better." In an instant, as if struck by lightning, a thick sorrow enveloped Pei Jinhui. He didn't dare to meet Meng Shichu's eyes again, lowering his head and casting his gaze downward. Meng Shichu pulled over a wooden chair and sat down. "If you don't solve the problem at its root, your problem will never get better." Pei Jinhui lowered his head even more, saying nothing. Meng Shichu asked again, "How long has Sang Lan been pestering you?" Pei Jinhui shook his head, his voice hoarse. "I stopped paying attention to her later on." Avoidance and evasion are not ways to solve problems. Meng Shichu paused. "Do you really think I deliberately called you to let you listen and just to get revenge on her?" Hearing this, Pei Jinhui's head snapped up again, his gaze once more fixed on Meng Shichu with disbelief. Meng Shichu didn't hide it. "The doctor talked to me privately. He said your condition wasn't right. Abandoned by his mother in childhood, raised by Meng Ling for a few years, only to have his birth mother disrupt his life, he was always the special one among the children. Later, With his mother's incessant pestering and his engagements being successively broken off, he became known in their circle as a strange and unapproachable young master. This time, Pei Guangyin's illness plunged Pei Jinhua into guilt and self-blame, and Sang Lan had repeatedly caused trouble. If this malignant tumor wasn't removed, Pei Jinhua would inevitably walk the same path as Pei Guangyin. Sorry, Pei Jinhuai's voice was faint and ethereal like a rootless duckweed. Meng Shichu narrowed her eyes. What are you apologizing for? Does it have anything to do with you? She did it for me. She didn't. Meng Shichu's voice grew heavier. The reason she can stand firm in the Sang family is because your two half-siblings are capable and the Sang family happens to be short on talent, so they can be put to good use. Otherwise, do you think the Sang family would let her bring home an illegitimate son with no official status? Pei Jinhua, she is retaliating against you. Retaliating because you accepted my mother, retaliating because you didn't side with her, retaliating because you can't be used by her. If you always think that because she gave birth to you, you owe her for a lifetime, then one day you will end up like father, lying there unconscious. To you, I will only offer this advice once. After all, my mother raised you for a time. I've called you brother for so long. I really hope you can pull yourself together and not follow Dad's old path. With that, Meng Shichu stood up. I will definitely settle things with Sang Lan. If you want to help her, I won't stop you. May the best one win. If he really wanted to help, it would be a matter of whether he could protect her or she could strike harder. She was actually looking forward to it. Pei Jinhua didn't speak. Meng Shichu didn't linger either, picking up her laptop and tablet and leaving the room. The door closed. Pei Jinhua held the water glass in both hands. The warmth of the water passed through the glass into his hands, like a warmth he had once touched, carving out a flowering space in his desolate heart. A knock sounded on the door. The assistant came in, carrying a lunchbox. Young master, the family has made you some congee. The doctor said you must take good care of your stomach and your diet must be regular. The assistant poured the congee into a bowl, arranged the side dishes, and handed over the chopsticks. Pei Jinhua didn't reach for them, still holding the glass of water. The assistant worriedly spoke again. Young master, please eat something. Mistress now specifically instructed me to make sure you rest well. The Pei family still has so many things waiting for you to handle. Pei Jinhua's head shot up, his eyes filled with intense expectation. Did she really say that? The assistant nodded. Yes, Miss told me to give you more nutrients and said she would find the best doctors for you. Seeing the assistant's serious expression, Pei Jinhua's lips curved into a smile, as if a stone in his heart was becoming lighter. Give me the food. He was about to put down the water glass, but then retracted his hand and drank all the warm water in the glass. After dinner, Pei Jinhua opened his laptop and started working on the backlog of tasks for the day. It wasn't until his phone rang and he saw the caller ID that his face suddenly darkened. He answered, and a booming, angry voice came from the other end. Pei Jinhua, you actually let that outsider send your mother to the police station? What kind of son are you? The caller was his maternal grandfather. After Sang Lan eloped and fled Kyoto, the Sang family had pressured everyone not to reveal the truth of the elopement. Since then, the ties between the Sang and Pei families had gradually faded, and business dealings had also decreased. The final break came 2 years later when Pei Guangyin sued for divorce, completely severing the relationship between the two families. Over the years, Sang Lan had had intermittent fits of madness, and the Sang family had never bothered to intervene. Their excuse was always, she's sick, you should be more tolerant. To put it bluntly, his grandfather was angry about Pei Guangyin's act of filing for divorce. But whose fault was that really? In addition, the Sang family had suffered several accidents over the years, with his grandfather's children and grandchildren either injured or disabled. The old man had become increasingly unreasonable with age. Just like now, it was clearly Sang Lan who had provoked trouble, yet he was blaming others. Pei Jinhua replied. She went to Shichu's company, smashed things, and insulted her. Shichu calling the police was a proper legal channel. The other party immediately roared, Pei Jinhua, do you have a conscience? Who is your mother doing this for? It's all for you. I don't care what method you use. Make that illegitimate daughter withdraw the complaint. Do you hear me? Faced with such an unreasonable command, Pei Jinhua's chest heaved violently. Suppressed emotions welled up from his heart, and his face and eyes turned sinister. His fingers tightened, as if he wanted to crush the phone. Pei Jinhua was on the verge of losing control. When there was no answer from the other end, the voice grew even more displeased. Did you hear me talking to you? If your mother isn't home in 2 hours, you'll see what I'll do. I'll turn the Pei family into the former He family. Provoked, Pei Jinhui gritted his teeth and replied with 4 words, "I'm afraid I can't." Pei Jinhui, you are insolent. You. Beep, beep, beep. Ignoring the other party's furious roars, Pei Jinhui hung up the phone. Then he flung his hand, and the phone was violently smashed. Go to hell. All of you go to hell. Pei Jinhui let out a low roar. The bodyguard standing guard at the door pushed it open to see Pei Jinhui in this frenzied state and rushed forward to restrain him. The assistant also hurried over and called Meng Shichu. After the assistant and doctor had spent a great deal of effort to calm him down, Pei Jinhui instructed his assistant, "Find a lawyer, write up a lawsuit, sue her, I want to sue her." The assistant was confused. Who was he going to sue? Then he heard Pei Jinhui say through gritted teeth, "Sue her for bigamy, sue her for abandonment. I want to sue her, sue her." A perfectly good family, torn apart by a madwoman. He couldn't take it anymore. Outside the hospital room, Meng Shichu, who had just arrived, heard Pei Jinhui's roars and stopped in her tracks. After a while, the sounds inside gradually died down. Meng Shichu turned and left. Huiche, who was with her, asked, "Aren't you going in to see Big Brother?" Meng Shichu reached out and took Huiche's hand, stepped into the elevator, and only then said, "As long as the poisonous thorn is pulled out, he will get better." These words fell on Huiche's ears. He turned his head to look and saw that Meng Shichu's face was as calm as ever. But at this moment he saw her wise foresight, seemingly heartless, yet not entirely without heart. In his eyes, she was like a star, inherently brilliant. That night, the Sang family failed to persuade the Pei family to drop the case. After much maneuvering by their lawyer, they were finally able to bring Sang Lan home. Sang Lan's face was extremely ugly. Because of Meng Shichu, the police couldn't just let her go easily. They had to follow procedure. As soon as she entered the house, Sang Lan said, "Pei Jinhui is an ungrateful wolf. I gave birth to him for nothing, and all I did for him was in vain. Since he doesn't appreciate it from now on, I no longer have him as a son." Walking over to the old man, Sang Lan sat down, took a sip of water, and said furiously, "Dad, the Pei family is full of people who don't know what's good for them. Teach them a lesson, don't let them off." As if that wasn't enough to vent her anger, she added, "Including Pei Jinhui, don't let any of them off." She had worked so hard for Pei Jinhui, yet her own son wouldn't even say a word to help her. That unfilial bastard had to be taught a lesson. Otherwise, he would really think his own mother was just a decoration. The old man, Sang had stayed up waiting. His face was even uglier than Sang Lan's. Hearing Sang Lan's words, Sang stood up with his cane and, without another word, slapped her across the face. In the quiet of the night, the sound of the slap was particularly abrupt. Sang Lan was sent sprawling onto the sofa by the slap, her head buzzing. Sang leaned on his cane with one hand and pointed at Sang Lan with the other. "Sang Lan, look at yourself. Do you have a brain? Look at the stupid things you've done. You've completely disgraced me." In his extreme anger, Sang slapped his own cheeks. "My lifelong reputation, completely ruined by you." Hearing the old man's words, Sang Lan propped herself up. "You're blaming me again, always blaming me. You were the one who said it would be best if the Pei family could be used by the Sang family. Otherwise, would I have needed to curry favor with Pei Jinhui? Do you know how much I hate and detest this son? When I was pregnant with him, you were the one who told me to give birth, saying he would inherit the Pei family in the future and be a part of the Sang family. You clearly knew how much I hated." Sang slapped her again, and Sang Lan fell completely silent. "I won't stop you from causing trouble at the Pei family, but I told you not to provoke Meng Shichu. Has your brain been eaten by a dog?" From above came the old man's furious command. "Tomorrow, go find Meng Shichu yourself. I don't care if you have to kneel or beg. If you can't get her forgiveness, the 3 of you can get out of the Sang family." Sang Lan was still in a daze. Sang had already left with a cold face. Early in the morning, the news that Sang Lan had caused a scene at Lynch & Design and been arrested by the police spread throughout their circle and even made it to the media. This completely stunned Sang Lan, who was just preparing to go and apologize to Meng Shichu. It was normal for such things to circulate as gossip within their circle, but for it to make it to the media was another matter. Those media outlets were all cunning. For them to dare to write about it, knowing who the Sang family was, there was only one possibility. Someone with more power and status than the Sang family had given the word. Sang was furious again. On the huge screen on the wall, the local news channel was also broadcasting the incident. The news anchor's tone shifted, saying they were connecting to a reporter on the scene. The screen changed to a live interview. The person being interviewed was Meng Shichu. On camera, Meng Shichu's long hair was tied up neatly. Her red, pearlescent top was exceptionally eye-catching, adding a touch of bold assertiveness to her usually cool temperament. The reporter asked, "CEO Meng, can you tell us more about what happened?" Meng Shichu's face was expressionless, her voice surprisingly calm. "My father is critically ill, and my family all went to the hospital. I had a meeting and arrived a little late. As soon as I got there, I received a call saying Ms. Sang was looking for me. When I returned to the company, the room had already been trashed. Ms. Sang started cursing without a moment's hesitation. She slandered me and my family, including my husband. Her words were very ugly. I cannot forgive such behavior. Calling the police is just one of the legal avenues I am taking." The reporter, hearing this, showed a surprised expression. "CEO Meng, does this mean you will continue to seek legal recourse?" Meng Shichu nodded. "Of course. Not long ago, Ms. Sang smashed up the Pei family's living room, causing millions in damages. We thought about her difficult life and decided to let it go, but she has gone too far. We certainly cannot encourage this kind of bullying." On the screen, Meng Shichu faced the reporter with ease. Her speech and demeanor had a composure beyond her years, and her attitude was a kind of assertiveness rarely seen in women her age. That, not bowing to evil forces, posture made Sang Lan throw the object in her hand at the screen. With a bang, the screen was hit but not broken, and the broadcast continued. The next second, a teacup flew over and hit Sang Lan on the forehead. "Look at the mess you've made." Sang Radeo was so angry he clutched his chest, struggling to breathe. After seeing off the reporters, Meng Shichu received a WeChat message from Che. The queen herself, so cool. The Sang family would probably soon find out just how heavily Meng Shichu's casual phrase, bullying others with power, would hit. Meng Shichu habitually replied with a yellow, smiley face emoji. She didn't like to be so high-profile, but that didn't mean she couldn't be. After the news, the Sang family's affairs once again became a top trending topic. The talk of the town was all about the Sang and Pei families. The circle was full of gossip. Sang Lan is really crazy. She's divorced from Pei Guangyin, yet she still goes and trashes someone else's home. It's too much. You can't blame Sang Lan entirely. She was only missing for a few years, and Pei Guangyin went through the process of divorce. If it were me, I'd cause a scene too. Whether she was really missing is debatable. The two children she brought back are said to be the children of the family that saved her. Are they the children of her benefactor or her own biological children? Only she knows. I heard a rumor that she ran off with someone. She wasn't willing to marry Pei Guanyin back then. Her family forced her. No way. Didn't the Pei family say she was missing? Otherwise, why did Pei Guangyin's mistress get run off when Sang Lan caused a scene later? Back then, the Sang family was at its peak with such a dense network of connections. How would Pei Guanyin dare to go against them? The internet was also a spectacular scene. Wow, this lady is so cool. Sitting there, she looks just like a queen. Is Ms. Sang sick or something? They've been divorced for over 20 years, and she's still causing trouble. What's the meaning of this? What could it mean? She's bullying others with her power. CEO Meng said so herself. I thought this lady was cool at the last wedding. Now I think she's even cooler. I like her so much. Meng Shichu paid no attention to the huge uproar caused by the massive online traffic, instead calmly holding a long meeting all morning. At noon, Che came to pick her up for lunch. Jiangwen came over at that moment. "Miss, everything is ready. Should we send it over now, or wait a bit?" Meng Shichu said, "No need to wait. Have the company's official account post a statement at the same time." Understood. Going downstairs with Che in the car, Che said, "I asked my friends to help a little. I hope it helps you." Meng Shichu turned her head to look at him and asked, "After this is over, let's treat those friends to a meal." He thought she would say thank for the hard work or something similar, but she didn't. Che felt a slight sense of satisfaction. She wasn't drawing a line between them anymore. "Okay." Just as he responded, he heard Meng Shichu say, "How should I reward you?" "What reward?" Che couldn't keep up for a moment. Meng Shichu said, "The reward for standing by my side and never leaving." Che suddenly understood. She was still thanking him, just in a different way, but he didn't feel bad about it. Che's lips curved. "You can owe me for now." "All right." Meng Shichu nodded. She felt that Che probably wouldn't go so far as to sell her out. After lunch, Meng Shichu and Che arrived at the hospital. Pei Jinhui had been there for a while. "Have you eaten? Have you eaten?" Meng Shichu and Pei Jinhui spoke at the same time. Che hadn't even had a chance to call out brother. We've eaten. Meng Shichu nodded, then asked, how are you? I ate on time this morning and at noon. I've already made an appointment with the doctor. Pei Jinhui paused, then added, I've already contacted Xiaohong and asked him to hand over his work there and come back to join the headquarters. Pei Xiaohong, the eldest son of second uncle Pei Guangyuan, had been abroad for many years and hadn't returned to Kyoto in 2 years. That was his main turf. If he came back, it would be like starting from scratch. For Pei Xiaohong, it was quite a disadvantage. So Meng Shichu asked, what did second brother say? He has no problem with it. That's good. Huache chatted with Pei Jinhui for a while Meng Shichu stood outside the ICU door for a moment. She remembered that she hadn't replied to Meng Ling's WeChat message yet. She picked up her phone and opened the chat with Meng Ling. Meng Ling, how is he? He's your biological father, after all. Whatever you do is right. Mom supports you in everything. Meng Shichu, he's not doing well, maybe. She hadn't finished typing the words, but she accidentally hit send. As she was about to add to it, a new message from Meng Ling came in. Do you blame Mom? Perhaps if they had met in Kyoto that day, Pei Guangyan wouldn't be like this. He might have held on a bit longer. Meng Shichu sent 4 words. Everyone has their fate. Only after sending it did she realize what she had sent. She had never been one to believe in fate. So how could she have sent such words? It seemed that, subtly, some imperceptible changes were happening within her. She typed again and sent. No one is at fault. Don't blame yourself, and don't take the blame on yourself. Meng Ling, don't worry, Mom isn't the type to dwell on things. The doctor came over, and Meng Shichu put away her phone. After listening to the doctor's update on Pei Guangyan's condition, the expressions on all their faces became exceptionally grave. The city wall had crumbled, and the land it protected was now a wasteland. Just like Pei Guangyan, his body had collapsed, and his inner world had fallen apart. How could he be saved? The 3 of them left together. In the elevator, Pei Jinhui suddenly said, I'm planning to sue. Meng Shichu nodded. For bigamy and abandonment, both. Okay. Pei Jinhui paused, then added, even if we don't win, it'll still disgust her. Meng Shichu said, we can win. The elevator doors opened, and the 3 of them came outside the hospital. The bodyguard had already parked the car and was waiting. Pei Jinhui called out to Meng Shichu. Huache, seeing this, took a few steps away. What do you want to say? Meng Shichu asked. Pei Jinhui's gaze was not right at this moment. It was as sinister as a corner desperado. Pei Jinhui said, if we can't win, I'll go kill her. I won't let her bother you again. Get a grip. Meng Shichu's voice turned several shades colder. Control yourself. Pei Jinhui looked away, his brow filled with gloom. That's just what I'm thinking. Then Meng Shichu took 2 steps back, creating distance. Pei Jinhui was stunned. Shichu, are you afraid of me? If you can't get rid of such a dangerous thought, we can stop seeing each other. Meng Shichu's words were tinged with heartlessness. Pei Jinhui looked down at his own clenched fists. He wanted to explain, but he didn't know how. Finally, he said, I'm afraid of failure. Once they failed, Sang Lan would become even more aggressive. Perhaps just like back then, she would harass Meng Shichu until she left Kyoto. He didn't want to see that happen. Failure is not a reason for you to resort to extreme measures. Meng Shichu stepped forward again, tilting her head up slightly to stare at Pei Jinhui. Pei Jinhui, listen to me. You are not the one at fault. You don't need to take responsibility for anyone else's mistakes. Throwing yourself into the fray might sound cool, but I think it's stupid. The solemn voice swirled in his ears, seeming to overlap with another voice from his memory. Little Huai, remember, if they don't play with you, it's their problem, not yours. You can play with other children, but I don't want to play with other children anymore. Okay, then that's the other children's problem too. Huh, is that so? The child was very confused, even shocked. The woman nodded. Yes, if they can't make you like them, it must be their problem. Sai, you need to see a doctor right now, immediately. Pei Jinhui's consciousness was pulled back. He nodded. Okay. Should I arrange it for you? Okay. Watching Meng Shichu and Huache get into the car and leave, Pei Jinhui's lowered hands clenched and unclenched several times. The assistant came forward. Young master, Miss has already left. I know. Pei Jinhui nodded. Seeing that he still wasn't moving, the assistant added. Young master, I think Miss is right. She actually values you a lot. Pei Jinhui didn't respond. The assistant, emboldened, continued. With Mrs. Personality, if she didn't approve of you, she wouldn't call you brother, nor would she say so much to you. Meng Shichu had been back with the Pei family for over half a year. He, following the young master's work, often appeared at the Pei residence, so he naturally got a feel for this young miss of the Pei family's personality. If it wasn't someone she approved of, she wouldn't bother wasting her breath on you. The fact that she said so much just now showed that she considered the young master as her family. Caring is what makes one talk more. I know, Pei Jinhui nodded, his expression softening considerably. Only then did he get into the car and head to the company. The interview with Meng Shichu caused a huge stir, not just in Kyoto, but across the entire internet. The ex-wife causing trouble, bullying others with power, Sang Lan became the target of nationwide criticism. It was at this time that Linshan Design's official account posted an update, a lawyer's letter. Meng Shichu was suing Sang Lan for malicious destruction of property and malicious verbal abuse and personal attacks. Linshan Design wasn't well known in Kyoto, but it had powerful backers. Pei Zhuanhai, Hua's Rongshin, and Huache's Seijo Technology were the first to repost, building momentum in Kyoto's business circle. Following them, Zhao's Yunding, Gu's Weishan Yuanxing, and Duan's Balalai also chimed in, creating a stir for Linshan Design. Besides these, the century-old families Lu's Hongbao and Cheng's Shengjin Baidai made an unexpected appearance. Although they didn't repost Linshan Design's original post, they tagged Linshan Design's official Weibo and Meng Shichu's personal blog in a new update. Hongbao/Shengjin Baidai welcomed CEO Meng to shine in the Kyoto business circle. If Meng Shichu's interview had only been the beginning, stirring up waves but not enough to truly panic the Sang family, then the intervention of several well-known and influential groups in Kyoto at this moment instantly pushed the Sang family into the eye of the storm. And at this point, it was only just the beginning. At 3 p.m, Pei Zhuanhai Group's official Weibo posted an update, a lawyer's letter. Pei Jinhui reposted it with a short text. The text wasn't long, but contained the words bigamy and abandonment, simple and direct. Sang Lan called Pei Jinhui, but no one answered. Sang Rodeo called again. Pei Jinhui ignored them all. This time, he was determined to seek justice for his father, for the Pei family, and for Aunt Meng who had left in a huff all those years ago. And for himself. At 4 o'clock, the situation escalated to an extreme. Just then, the Sang family was dealt a heavy blow. The nationally renowned Boyang Security's official blog posted 2 consecutive updates. The first, tagging all the groups and individuals who had supported Linshan Design, expressing thanks. The second, a call out to Sang's Fengrui, see you in court. This is a major plot arc. It's easy to get bogged down if I'm not careful, so I'm writing a bit slower. I'll try to finish it earlier and update sooner tomorrow. Sang Lan received 3 lawyers' letters. She had cursed both Meng Shichu and Meng Ling at Linshan Design, and she never expected them to sue her separately. Because the surveillance footage was crystal clear and she had cursed them by name, the lawyer said it was possible for them to file separate lawsuits. But Meng Ling's lawsuit was filed in the name of Boyang Security. It was only then that Sang Lan learned that Meng Ling's current husband was the CEO and founder of Boyang Security. She suddenly understood why Sang Rodeo had told her not to provoke Meng Shichu, but it was too late. What made her break down the most was that Pei Jinhui was also suing her. Abandonment. Bigamy. This was the truth she and the Sang family had concealed for over 20 years. Once it was revealed, she couldn't imagine how much face she would have left. She immediately took out her phone, found a number with no name but frequent contact, and dialed it. Before the other person could speak, she said directly, right now, immediately, leave that place. Go abroad, as far away as you can. Never come back to this country for the rest of your life. Do you hear me? There was no response from the other end. Sang Lan became anxious. Han Qingyu, I'm talking to you, do you hear me? No. A man's voice came from the other end. Sang Lan raged. I'm not discussing this with you. Are you trying to get me and the children killed if you don't leave? Han Qingyu said, I'm enduring humiliation and living in this place just to wait for a reunion with my son and daughter. Now you're telling me to leave and telling me never to come back. Did you find someone else? Are you trying to cut ties with me for good? Sang Lan roared. Cut ties with your mother. Don't you see the situation I'm in now? They're trying to sue me for bigamy. If they find you, we and the children will all be finished. Do you want to see your children expelled from the Sang family and left homeless? Han Qingyu, think carefully. If you don't leave, your dream of marrying into a rich family is over. Han Qingyu on the other end of the line was silent for a moment, then said, I can leave, but I have no money. Send me some money. Sang Lan exploded with rage. Didn't I just transfer you 800,000 half a month ago? Han Qingyu replied, I spent it all. It's gone. Sang Lan guessed the outcome. You son of a bitch, you went gambling again. How could I have been so blind as to fall for a gambling addict like you? Han Qingyu was not happy either. Sang Lan, don't you dare talk about me. You were the one who told me playing cards was a surefire way to make a fortune. I fucking learned it from you. Cut the crap. If you want me to leave, transfer the money. I can't go anywhere without money. And from now on, you have to increase my monthly allowance to 1 million. The cost of living abroad is so high, 800,000 isn't enough. Sang Lan was so angry she wanted to kill someone, but she still gritted her teeth and transferred the money. On the other side, in a cheap rental house in a remote small city, Han Qingyu saw the bank transfer notification and quickly showed his phone to the burly man beside him. Big brother, look, my performance didn't give anything away, right? Not minding that Han Qingyu, who was older than him, called him big brother, Tang Yin smiled and asked, do you want to earn more money? Really? Can I? Han Qingyu's eyes lit up. Tang Yin said, Sang Lan has been living the life of a rich man's wife in Kyoto for years. She's too happy. She's keeping 3 young men, one of whom wants to marry into a rich family. If that young man succeeds, Mr. Han's dream of a rich family will be shattered, and your son and daughter will have to call someone else dad. What? I knew that bitch Sang Lan was up to no good. She was really sleeping with other men behind my back. Watching Han Qingyu's furious outburst, Tang Yin took out his phone and sent a message to Meng Shichu. Miss, it's handled on this end. When Meng Shichu got off work, she saw 2 cars parked there as soon as she walked out. One was hers, the other was Hua Che's. Hua Che waved at her while walking towards her. In the past, Meng Shichu would have found such an act quite meaningless. After all, she had to walk over anyway. Hua Che coming to pick her up was already sincere enough. There was no need for him to walk these few steps to meet her. It wouldn't even take her 2 minutes to walk over. But at this moment, her lips curved upwards. As Hua Che was about to reach her, she even extended her hand. It was like a subconscious, habitual action. Hua Che took Meng Shichu's hand, turned to walk alongside her towards the car, and said, Big brother said, we're having dinner at home tonight. I agree. Which big brother? Meng Shichu asked. Hua Che was momentarily speechless, then explained, the Pei family. Oh! As they were speaking, Meng Shichu's phone rang. It was Pei Jinhui. Shichu, come back for dinner tonight. Meng is back. Okay. Meng Shichu nodded. I'll go back to my place for a bit and then come over. All right. I've already told Hua Che. Arriving at the car, Meng Shichu also hung up. Hua Che smoothly opened the car door for her, and at the same time asked, are there guests at home? Meng Shichu hesitated for a moment, then answered, yes and no. What does that mean? Curious, he raised his hand to shield Meng Shichu's head to prevent her from bumping it. Pei Mange, my second uncle's daughter. I should call her sister. Oh, Hua Che responded, still not understanding what Meng Shichu meant by yes and no. It wasn't until he got into the car that Meng Shichu explained again. The Pei family divided the household a long time ago, so we're technically 2 families, but we're very close. There's no internal strife. Hua Che finally understood. Okay, got it. The car had just started when a group of people suddenly rushed over and surrounded it. The driver was Hua Che's assistant, Yimo. Seeing the situation, he immediately locked the car doors. At the same time, 2 other groups of people quickly rushed over and clashed with the people surrounding the car. The scene instantly became chaotic. Meng Shichu picked up her phone and checked a new message. Hua Che, on the other hand, stared out the window, watching the conflict outside until a tall figure stood outside, blocking his view. Turning his head, he found that another bodyguard was standing outside the other car door. He recognized him as Jiang Wu. After about 3 minutes, Jiang Wu knocked on the car window and made an okay gesture. Only then did Yimo unlock the car and get out to assess the situation. I'll go take a look. Hua Che also got out of the car. All the people who had rushed to surround the car were pinned to the ground. Hua Che noticed that 2 of his own bodyguards were injured, while all of Meng Shichu's bodyguards were unharmed. The person who brought the people was Sang Lan. Seeing all her bodyguards pinned to the ground, her face turned pale and then green. Seeing Hua Che get out of the car, Sang Lan spoke up. Where's Meng Shichu? I want to talk to her. Hua Che found this laughable. Ms. Sang, your way of talking is quite unique. It's almost like a kidnapping. Tell Meng Shichu to get down. Sang Lan didn't want to waste her breath on Hua Che. I mean no harm. I'm here to seek peace. For 3 consecutive days, the Sang family had been in deep trouble. The support from Meng Shichu and the Pei family from several powerful and influential families in Kyoto had gradually become too much for the Sang family to handle. On top of that, there was the unfathomably powerful Boyang security. With 3 lawsuits hanging over her head, Sang Lan realized the severity of the situation. She had wanted to come and seek peace with Meng Shichu that very day, but then her son got into trouble. He was set up with a woman during a business negotiation and then caught in a police raid on prostitution. Just as she had settled her son's matter, her daughter's project was sued for plagiarism due to patent issues. The Sang family's company, which had been run by her older brother for so many years without problems, suddenly had tax issues. An old project was exposed for falsifying tests and was even implicated in a life-and-death case. This also led to the branch of the Sang family in politics being taken away for secret investigation due to an anonymous tip. The Sang family had suffered a heavy blow, but it was far from over. Her older brother's eldest son, who had been injured and was impotent, was served with divorce papers. His second son, who was still in school, was being jointly demanded to be expelled by parents for bullying a classmate. Just as her older brother was about to deal with his second son's matter, he was taken away by the Economic Crime Investigation Department. The old man, Sang Rodeo, was overcome with anger and grief, coughed up blood, and fainted. Sang Lan was completely dumbfounded. In just 3 days, the century-old Sang family's world had collapsed. The other party's moves were swift and ruthless, one after another, as if they would never stop. And today, her son and daughter's engagements were unilaterally broken off. The Sang family had become the laughingstock of their circle. Their power was gone. Meng Shichu did not get out of the car, and the bodyguards did not let Sang Lan approach. The aggressive Sang Lan didn't even get to see Meng Shichu's face before watching the car drive away from her. Meng Shichu, do you have to be so ruthless? Leave some room for others, so we can meet again in the future. Sitting in the car, Meng Shichu didn't hear, but the head of the bodyguard team, Jiang Wu, replied to Sang Lan, there is no future. Then he got in his car, leading 3 vehicles to follow behind Meng Shichu's car at a close but safe distance. In the car, Hua Che curiously asked Meng Shichu, how many bodyguards do you usually have with you? Meng Shichu was still tapping on her phone, not even looking up. Usually 6 to 8 when I'm out and about, and not during usual times. Meng Shichu replied, 2 teams. How many people in a team? 10. After answering, Meng Shichu finally looked up at Hua Che and asked with a smile, why? Asking so clearly, are you planning something? Hua Che raised an eyebrow. Kidnap you? You've already kidnapped me with marriage. How else do you want to kidnap me? Hua Che froze for a moment, then realized he had been flirted with by Meng Shichu. Instantly, the tips of his ears turned scorching hot, as red as if they had been seared by fire. Meng Shichu found it quite amusing. A man who had chased his white moonlight for years, yet blushed and had red ears at the drop of a hat. He was so innocently charming. In a good mood, Meng Shichu reached out and touched Hua Che's ear. Hua Che flinched slightly, then reached out and grabbed her hand. You say you're not good at it, but you always strike without warning. How can you be like this? Shouldn't he be the seasoned player in love? All his careful planning was no match for Meng Shichu's spontaneous whim. Meng Shichu smiled. She didn't really think there was a problem. It was just a natural reply, and she had an impulse to touch his fiery ear, that was all. She had no other ulterior motives, so why was he complaining? Hua Che quickly changed the subject, and they chatted idly all the way to Xiangshan Meiyuan. Just after entering the main gate, they happened to run into Xia Yin, who was also returning from work. The 2 cars pulled over one after the other. Xia Yin got out, and Meng Shichu and Hua Che got out as well. Are you 2 okay? Xia Yin spoke first. We're fine. Meng Shichu nodded. Thanks a lot. Xia Yin said. It was nothing. I was just protecting the interests of my company's shareholder. Hua Che remembered Meng Shichu mentioning at the Hua family banquet that she also had shares in Xia Yin's company. He suddenly thought of what Hua Cheng had said to him before. You've really managed to live off a woman. He admitted that at first, he had underestimated the connections and network his wife could mobilize. He had thought that confronting the Sang family would be a tough battle. Now it seemed like a piece of cake. His wife was better than him at everything. He was really living off a woman now. After some small talk, Xia Yin asked, do you 2 have plans tonight? If not, let's have dinner together. I'll call Shang. We have to go back to the Pei family. My cousin is back. Xia Yin nodded. All right, let's do it next time. Okay. Goodbye, CEO Xiao. Hua Che waved at Xia Yin. Xia Yin waved back. Goodbye, young Master Hua. Keep it up. Huh? Hua Che was bewildered. Keep what up? Back in the car, Hua Che asked Meng Shichu, what did CEO Xiao mean? He was praising you for being a good man. Hua Che looked puzzled. Why is that? You stood by me and even offered your full support. Hua Che scratched his ear. My bit of help was nothing. How could it not be different? Meng Shichu said very seriously, if you have 100 and give me 1 yuan, versus having 100 and giving me 100, it's naturally different. So in your eyes, which one am I? The latter. Hua Che scratched the back of his head sheepishly. I'm not that good. Your evaluation is too high. Being acknowledged by the person he cared about gave him an inexplicable thrill. Since Pei Guangyan had fallen ill, Meng Shichu had been spending time at the hospital every day and hadn't been back here to see her little animals. As soon as they entered, Thor flew over, flapping his wings. As Meng Shichu walked in, he played on her left shoulder, then her right, rubbing his head against her ear and even gently pecking at her earring with his beak. After playing with Meng Shichu for a while, he turned to face Hua Che, spreading his wings and flapping them, as if attacking or perhaps teasing him. What's he doing? Hua Che had no idea about crows. He's probably in a good mood and teasing you. Being teased by a bird. Hua Che found it very interesting and extended his finger. Thor pecked it gently, without force it didn't hurt. Then he hopped on a Hua Che's hand. Hua Che knew this. A bird landing on your hand meant it accepted you. He felt a strange sense of happiness. At times like this, of course, he had to take out his phone, take a picture, and post it to his moments. Caption, new friend. Because she hadn't been back for a long time, the animals were very affectionate towards Meng Shichu. The dogs and cats clung to her. The nesting female falcon even came out. The butler immediately turned on the heat lamp to prevent the eggs from getting cold. But the female falcon hadn't forgotten her job. After being petted by Meng Shichu, she ran back to her nest. On her way, she stepped on Hua Che's foot, tilted her head to look at him, and spread her feathers in a combat stance. It was as if she was saying, "Human, so it was you who stole my playmate." She glared at me. Hua Che pointed at the waddling female falcon and complained to Meng Shichu. Meng Shichu replied, "Then you glare back." The butler couldn't help but laugh, and Hua Che himself burst out laughing. After staying for a while, the two got back into the car and headed to the Pei residence. This time, Hua Che drove Meng Shichu's car. He had already sent his assistant Yi Mo away. Just as they left the residential complex, Meng Shichu told him, "Stop outside the mall ahead. Do you need to buy something?" Meng Shichu, in the passenger seat, operated her phone and replied with 3 words, "Daily necessities." Hua Che said, "If we're missing anything at home, I'll have the butler get it. You don't need to worry about it yourself." Suddenly feeling a gaze on him, Hua Che glanced at Meng Shichu. She was smiling faintly. Immediately after, Hua Che's face turned beet red. He would never be able to look at the words daily necessities the same way again. To break the awkwardness, he asked, "Are we not staying at the Pays tonight?" "No, we're not staying there." "Oh," Meng Shichu then said, "You're such a light sleeper when it comes to beds. What do you do on business trips? Do you not sleep?" "I don't go on business trips," Hua Che said. "Anyway, I haven't been on one so far. If there's a need, I let someone else go." "Young master is so domineering. Are you making fun of me?" "No, I'm praising you." "Then I'll believe you." As they chatted, the car parked in an empty spot outside the mall. The two entered the mall and, after a stroll, found the personal care section. Just as Meng Shichu reached for something, her hand was caught by Hua Che. Under her puzzled gaze, Hua Che swapped it for a different box next to it. "Try this one." Meng Shichu raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" Hua Che started to get embarrassed again. Don't you feel like it doesn't go all the way down each time?" And it felt very constricting, very tight. Every time they finished, it would be halfway off without him even touching it. "Isn't it because of thick hair getting in the way, preventing it from going down?" Meng Shichu asked with a straight face. There weren't many people in this section, but Hua Che still leaned closer to Meng Shichu and whispered, "Is there a possibility that the size you bought for me before was too small?" Meng Shichu had always been the one to buy them. She was always thoughtful, restocking as soon as they were about to run out. Hua Che wasn't sure if the issue of it not going all the way down and slipping off was normal or because the size was too small, so he wanted to try a different size. Meng Shichu's gaze shifted downwards to a certain spot. She nodded with a smirk. "Oh, okay." Having been back at the Pei residence for over half a year, Meng Shichu had only seen Pei Mange twice. The first time was at the welcome banquet upon her return to the Pei family, where Pei Mange had given her a set of high-end luxury jewelry. The second time was at her wedding banquet with He Xingyi, which later turned into her wedding banquet with Hua Che. That time, Pei Mange had given her a large boat. Very generous. Hua Che didn't have a deep impression of Pei Mange. She was rarely in Kyoto. At the wedding with Meng Shichu, when they toasted, Pei Mange had only said to him, "From now on, you all be well." Actually, Hua Che understood that Pei Mange's use of all was to save him face in front of other guests. She was reminding him not to be so wild and crazy after marriage, and especially not to maintain any lingering ties with his ex. It wasn't obvious, but the implication was there. Before they even entered the house, they heard second uncle's complaining voice, then Pei Mange's voice, soothing him. As they walked in, Pei Guangyin, who was about to curse the Sang family again, shut his mouth. Chu and Xiao Che are back. Come sit, have some tea. We just arrived not long ago, too. He then turned over the teacups and filled them for the two. Pei Mange stood up. Meng Chu and Hua Che spoke first, calling out, "Cousin, sorry, I had some problems on my end recently and couldn't help with the family matters." Pei Mange said apologetically, handing a red bag to Meng Chu. "I brought you something. You're being too serious. Second uncle has been here all along." Meng Chu took the bag. Inside were 2 boxes, likely watches or something similar. Pei Mange said, "Eldest uncle will be fine." The few of them sat down and chatted, and Hua Che didn't feel excluded at all. He had personally used some connections for this matter, and the Hua family had also provided their full support. The Pei family already had no objections to him, and now their impression of him was even better. They were even more grateful to Meng Chu. If it weren't for her, how could the Pei family have so easily challenged the Sang family? Although she was young and had no memory of it, she had heard from Pei Xiaohong that when Aunt Meng was with eldest uncle, she was very good to him, and Aunt Meng's daughter was even more outstanding and capable. Speaking of the Sang family, Pei Guangyuan was filled with anger. "Don't let that woman off." Just as he said that, Pei Jinhui came down from upstairs. He had taken a shower and changed into casual clothes, his hair still dripping. Second uncle reluctantly fell silent again. Pei Jinhui sat down. Hua Che turned over a teacup to pour him tea. Pei Jinhui said, "I can do it. It's what I should do." After Pei Jinhui sat down, he spoke calmly. "I don't plan to withdraw the lawsuit." This was a response to his uncle's earlier words. This time, the decision was made. The Pei family no longer had to fear the Sang family, so of course, they had to eliminate any future trouble. The dinner was very sumptuous, with only Pei Xiaohong, who had not yet returned, and Pei Guangyin, who was still in a coma at the hospital, missing. Second uncle had no objection to Pei Xiaohong returning. Pei Mange also stated her position. "I'll probably consolidate my business and come back too. What do you think, big brother?" Now, Pei Jinhui was basically the one in charge at home. With the family going through this upheaval, many things were different from before. It would be great if you could come back, of course. A sincere joy appeared on Pei Jinhui's face. For years, the Pei family had rested solely on Pei Guangyin's shoulders. Second uncle had a hot temper and average abilities, and he had withdrawn from the group's management early on, fearing he would cause more trouble than help. Due to the family division, Pei Xiaohong had developed his career abroad, and Pei Mange had also been developing her own business outside. With the Pei family in trouble this time, bringing the family together to develop the Pei enterprise was naturally the best thing for them. "With your word, big brother, I'll pack up my things over there and come back. Let's take this opportunity to work together." She couldn't say that no one would bully the Pei family in the future, but at least they could reduce the number of constraints. After all, in this world, there was always someone better, and there were plenty of people more powerful than you. After dinner, the group brewed tea and continued to chat. Suddenly, Pei Mange asked, "Chu, you should join the company too." She knew that eldest uncle had given Meng Chu shares, but Meng Chu herself was rather hesitant. Towards this cousin whom she had only met 3 times, including today, Pei Mange didn't have any deep sisterly affection, but she was genuinely grateful. If it weren't for Meng Chu this time, the Pei family would not have gotten through it so easily. Although she was young and had no memory of it, she had heard from Pei Xiaohong that when Aunt Meng was with eldest uncle, she was very good to him, and Aunt Meng's daughter was even more outstanding and capable. "I don't plan on taking on more work at the moment," Meng Chu answered very directly. After a pause, she added, "Besides, in the next 2 years, I will consider having a child at the right time. Extra work is not suitable for me." As soon as these words were spoken, the scene fell into a dead silence. Several pairs of eyes turned to look at them. The one who spoke was Meng Chu, but the one who blushed was Hua Che. He felt as if he were being dissected under the watchful eyes of everyone. Having a child, this seemed to be a very private topic. Meng Chu had never mentioned it to him, and he had never brought it up. Even the Hua family had not hinted at this topic. After all, he and Meng Chu had not been married for long. There was no parental decree or matchmaker's arrangement. It was just a spur-of-the-moment union for mutual benefit. Such a long-term topic was somewhat unrealistic for them, a bit too early. Yet, he had never imagined that Meng Chu was planning it herself. Hua Che's hand subconsciously reached out and held Meng Chu's. In his excitement and shock, his palm was moist. Pei Mange spoke up. I really envy how good your relationship is. Who says arranged marriages can't have good relationships? Here was one, right in front of them. Without feelings, how could one have a child? It was because Meng Shichu had brought up the matter herself that Hua Chei's mind was in a constant state of flutter. An inexplicable sense of secret delight had been bubbling up inside him and hadn't stopped. Having lived 2 lives, this was the first time he had heard such words. He was so excited he wanted to get up and spin Meng Shichu around. She was willing to have his child. Meng Shichu must like him, right? Definitely. Absolutely. It must be. When it was time, second uncle and Pei Mange got up to leave. Meng Shichu and Hua Chei also said their goodbyes to Pei Jinhui. Pei Jinhui frowned and asked, Second uncle and Mange don't live far, less than 10 minutes by car. You two are so far, are you also leaving? Hua Chei was about to make up an excuse when he heard Meng Shichu speak. Hua Chei is a light sleeper. He can't sleep if he changes places. Oh, after hearing this, Pei Jinhui didn't insist on them staying. He patted Hua Chei's arm. You've worked hard these past few days, too. Hua Chei went to the hospital every day, drove Meng Shichu to and from work, and also chatted with him so he wouldn't be alone and bored. Anyway, what he saw was the two of them being inseparable. Pei Jinhui mentally retracted his initial prejudice against Hua Chei. This brother-in-law was quite good. We're family. It's what I should do. Hua Chei scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Having lived 2 lives, this was the period after the age of 19 where he had received the most praise. Everyone was saying he was excellent, not bad, very good. Even the reviews of him in their circle had improved a lot. You have to know, before they all called him a crazy dude, a psycho, a love-struck fool, an idiot. His family also always said he was disobedient, rebellious, disregarded the bigger picture, and had no sense of honor. Since getting married, everything had been getting better. He was also getting better. The person by his side was good, his friends were good, his family was good. He was surrounded by all things good. So naturally, he grew towards the sun, leaving all the bad things behind. Now he had walked very, very far, and those bad things could no longer catch up to him. On the way back, Hua Chei was driving, and in his good mood, he even played a very cheerful song. Meng Shichu was dealing with messages on her phone and noticed that Hua Chei had glanced at her several times. So she reminded him, watch the road. Drive carefully. Yeah, Hua Chei nodded. He was so happy he couldn't help but ask, that, Shichu, you're planning to have a child with me. Does that mean you already have feelings for me? Startled by Hua Chei's sudden question, Meng Shichu looked up. Is that so? Hua Chei was stunned for a moment. Otherwise, why are you planning to have a child? Meng Shichu said, we have to have a child eventually. Otherwise, are you planning to give away our assets or turn them over to the state? Okay, this. Meng Shichu, the child can't come out of your belly. I have to give birth to it, so I'm planning ahead. Hua Chei, okay, got it. He wasn't as happy anymore, even a little disappointed. The pleasant music turned into noise. He turned it off. Seeing he was unhappy, Meng Shichu added, living with you during this time has been very good. You're very attentive, and I enjoy this feeling. The days have been quite pleasant. I think I have some feelings for you. Hua Chei gripped the steering wheel, his gaze fixed ahead, and nodded helplessly. Thank you, wife, for your benevolent consolation. He had thought his performance during this time had been good, that Meng Shichu had been soaked in the warmth of their daily life and had developed feelings for him. Right? He had forgotten his wife was a clear-headed, career-focused person. At least she planned for their child to inherit their joint property. He was still in her future. Finding a sweet spot in the bitterness, Hua Chei managed to soothe himself. Take it slow. Love grows over time. We've only just begun. Just as Meng Shichu got into bed after a shower, she received a call from her assistant, Jiang Wan. Miss, there's a problem with a report from an overseas project. Is it convenient for you to join a short meeting? Meng Shichu, yes. It must be urgent, or Jiang Wan wouldn't have called her so late. Meng Shichu read the documents Jiang Wan sent over, understood the details, and then joined the conference channel. They were arguing on the other end, quite fiercely. When Hua Chei came out of the bathroom, he heard Meng Shichu on the bed say in an indifferent voice, halt the project. Redo the review and risk assessment. Right, she was always this busy. It made him seem very idle. Hua Chei walked over, lifted the covers, and sat on the bed. Because Meng Shichu was wearing headphones, Hua Chei couldn't hear what was being said on the other end. But they must have been arguing because Meng Shichu became unhappy. If you insist on pushing forward, then sign a valuation adjustment mechanism agreement. If an accident occurs, your company will bear the consequences and compensate our company for the losses. If it proceeds successfully, your company's profit share will increase by 7 percentage points. Huiche just sat beside her, hearing only Meng Shichu's voice. Her decisions were crisp and decisive. She quickly wrapped things up and put down her phone. Your work really is busy, Huiche said aloud. Meng Shichu smiled and said, I only get impromptu work occasionally to accommodate the time difference over there. She was already looking for personnel, planning to send a manager to be stationed there long term. Then, she would only need to read the summary reports periodically. Huiche took Meng Shichu's hand, which was resting on her lap, and asked with a serious expression, You're so capable. It makes me look even more like a freeloader. Nonsense. Meng Shichu disagreed with this statement. Only Lin Shen design is mine. The rest was given by my elders. Don't you also have Seijo technology? Huiche, what the elders gave you is still yours. Meng Shichu smiled. It seems you've decided you're a freeloader. She thought he was bothered by it, so she tried to justify it for him. But why did it feel like he was enjoying it? Huiche thought for a moment and said solemnly, I don't know why, but I just inexplicably feel pretty good about it. Amused by his appearance, Meng Shichu took his hand and held it between them. How about I let you eat this soft rice the hard way? Can I? As he spoke, he flung the thin blanket away with a wave of his hand and flipped on top of her. Meng Shichu moved to wrap her arms around his neck, but Huiche caught both her wrists, crossing them and pressing them against the wall above the headboard. His palms were scorching hot. The wall was ice cold. One side of her wrist was cold, the other hot. It was quite stimulating. Meng Shichu lifted her hips, unconcealed excitement in her eyes, and spoke in an almost commanding tone, Come, kiss me. Like a provocation from a superior, it instantly ignited the wildness in Huiche's bones, his blood burning with excitement. He leaned down, his kiss hot and forceful, full of aggression, conquering her city. They had both been busy with many things lately and hadn't had marital relations for a while. This touch was as intense as a spark hitting the earth. They reveled in their passion. As they were nearing the end, thoroughly spent, Huiche stuffed the daily necessity into Meng Shichu's hand. Be good, you help me. Meng Shichu didn't refuse. She wanted to see if Huiche was blindly confident or if her previous choices had been holding him back. As it turned out, she had indeed miscalculated before. After their passion subsided, Huiche held Meng Shichu in his arms, panting as he uttered a single word, Awesome! Meng Shichu's fingers traced a few circles on Huiche's abdomen. Then she got up to go wash, only to be pulled back by Huiche. Wait a bit. Wash up and sleep. Let me hold you for a while. Meng Shichu, wouldn't it be better to hold me when I'm clean? You don't understand. This enhances our feelings, Huiche said, adding, It says so in a book. Meng Shichu said she'd never seen that written in any book. Perhaps it was one she hadn't read. She didn't understand, but she respected it. So the two of them held each other, chatted for a while, and reviewed what had just happened. Both were very satisfied. Their life was harmonious. Of course, Huiche also took the opportunity to complain about Meng Shichu underestimating him. Meng Shichu nodded and admitted her mistake. Yes, my fault. But why didn't you say something earlier if you were uncomfortable? Huiche said, How would I know? I've never measured, and I've never used that thing. I thought that was just how it was. Meng Shichu couldn't help but laugh out loud at his words. The two went to wash up together, then came back, got settled, and fell asleep in each other's arms. The feud between the Pei and Sang families concluded with the complete defeat of the Sang family. Another 2 weeks passed. The Sang family still had many unresolved issues, and Sang Shifengwei was in turmoil. Many of their former friends and partners either lay low to protect themselves or cut ties completely. The Sang family patriarch, Sang Rideo, was angered into the hospital several times. The Sang family was in a difficult position. Sang Lan and her 2 children faced expulsion from the family. Sang Lan was unwilling to accept this. Unfortunately, after several failed attempts to find Meng Shichu, she had no choice but to seek out Pei Jinhui again. At first, Pei Jinhui also ignored her, but she caused a scene at the Pei Corporation and threatened him with the grace of having given birth to him. So Pei Jinhui agreed to see her. As soon as they met, Sang Lan said directly, You tell Meng Shichu to back off, and I won't come and bother you guys anymore. I'm afraid I can't help you. Pei Jinhui refused without hesitation. Sang Lan was furious. I'm your mother. Are you only satisfied when you see me destitute and kicked out of the Sang family? You're my mother, and you still abandon me? Pei Jinhui retorted, adding, For many years, people pointed at me and called me a motherless child. Where were you? You. Sang Lan was at a loss for words. then said, Pei Jinhui, don't you forget, I gave birth to you. If I really end up destitute, I'll come to you for support, and you won't be able to refuse. So you'd better withdraw the lawsuit immediately. Fine, Pei Jinhui nodded. Thinking he had agreed to withdraw the suit, she was about to state her demands when she heard Pei Jinhui continue. First, I'll sue you for bigamy and abandonment. Later, when you have no means of supporting yourself, I will support you. Pei Jinhui, say that again. Pei Jinhui, I consulted a lawyer. The so-called support could be a few hundred or 1,000 yuan a month, or it could be placing you in a nursing home to live out your twilight years. You? How can you be so heartless? I'm not your only son. The other two are adults. I'll pay 1/3 of the court-ordered alimony. You can go to your Sang surnamed children for the rest. Sang Lan was stunned by Pei Jinhui's attitude and knew that what he said was true. He might actually do it. This time, she had truly ruined everything. Pei Jinhui stood up to leave, leaving her with one last sentence. Don't come looking for me again. I will not withdraw the lawsuit. The tail end of summer had passed, and autumn had arrived. The weather didn't seem to have changed much. It was still a bit dry. The political branch of the Sang family failed to pass even the first round of disciplinary inspection and implicated several important officials. Sang Shifengrui was in turmoil from within. Sang Lan's eldest brother was bogged down with various matters, and with the police and economic crime investigators calling on him every few days, was overwhelmed and powerless to turn the tide. The Sang family's peak had ended, and it was now on a steep decline. Sang Lan's court case was imminent. Because the patriarch, Sang Rideo, had fallen ill, the Sang family was short-handed, so they hadn't expelled her yet. This was also because she had repeatedly assured them that everything was arranged, that the charges of bigamy and abandonment would not hold, and that she would even countersue Pei Guangyan. It might not succeed, but it would be a way to vex them. Otherwise, she wouldn't be content. Before returning to the capital back then, she had made Han Qingyu move to a different city. Over the years, she had to move every year or two. She didn't believe the Pei family could dig up traces of her and Han Qingyu living together more than 20 years ago. Furthermore, she had already sent Han Qingyu abroad. Plus, without her permission, they couldn't do a DNA test on her and the children. No proof. At this point, she had to take the gamble. As for the lawsuit for defaming Meng Shichu and Meng Ling, at worst she would make a public apology and pay some compensation for emotional distress. If it came to it, she'd spend a couple of days in jail and be done with it. It wasn't a death sentence, so it didn't matter. She had nothing to lose now. Old Master Sang believed Sang Lan and gave her one last chance. The night before the court hearing, Sang Lan learned that Pei Guangyan was critically ill again. Sang Lan gritted her teeth, somewhat excited. It's best if he dies. She knew that Pei Guangyan had been critically ill several times in the past few days, and his condition was extremely dangerous. She had also heard the hospital's ultimatum was that he wouldn't last a week. Not long after she left, Pei Guangyan had gotten together with Meng Ling and had Meng Shichu. He was no good either, serve him right. At the hospital, Pei Guangyan had once again been snatched back from death's door. He was still in the intensive care unit, connected to numerous machines. Disconnecting any one of them would mean death for that body. Seeing Meng Shichu and Pei Jinhui walk over after speaking with the doctor, Pei Guangyuan stared at the two of them. It was Pei Meng who asked, Big brother, Shichu, what did the doctor say? Before either of them could speak, Pei Guangyan turned and walked away, his steps so brisk it was as if he didn't want to hear a single word. I'll go check on second uncle, Hua Che said, chasing after Pei Guangyuan. Pei Jinhui's heart was too heavy for words, his eyes bloodshot. It was Meng Shichu who shook her head at Pei Meng. The doctor said it's not looking good. 3 days at most. Pei Guangyan's body and mind were like a great river dam. When the dam collapsed, the flood rushed out for thousands of miles, unstoppable, with no chance of repair. Even if the dam were repaired, the reservoir within was already empty. Just like Pei Guangyan's current state, a living dead person. No movement, no consciousness, even breathing required a machine. Pei Meng's eyes immediately reddened. She leaned against the wall and said, Eldest uncle has had such a hard life. My dad has a bad temper and isn't very capable. It was always eldest uncle protecting us. He shouldn't. Her voice choked, unable to continue. Eldest uncle shouldn't have ended up like this. He shouldn't. Meng Shichu sighed. Her phone vibrated urgently. It was her other assistant, Tang Yan. She walked a few steps away to answer the call. Tang Yan's angry voice came through. Miss, I sent you a video. I can't take it anymore. I want to take care of that bitch. Hold on. Meng Shichu watched the video Tang Yan had sent in WeChat. Sang Lan was on a private date with her young boyfriend in a bar. The boyfriend was worried about her current situation, but Sang Lan confidently said it was nothing, and then proceeded to curse and mock her ex-husband's entire family. The language was vulgar and nasty. Meng Shichu clenched her back teeth. Pei Meng heard the sound and walked over, asking, Shichu, what happened? Meng Shichu, a dog is barking. It needs to be dealt with. Her tone was rarely so cold. Pei Meng had finished her work and been back for a few days, but she had never seen Meng Shichu's expression so dark. She held up her phone and said, don't wait for the trial. Turn her into a rat. On the other end, Tang Yin asked, so strike first. Meng Shichu paused for 2 seconds. Be discreet, Tang Yin replied. Rest assured, miss. I won't get my hands dirty myself. Filthy things dirty the hands. Meng Shichu put her phone away. Pei Meng asked, is Sang Lan causing trouble again? Although it's only early autumn, she won't be hopping around for much longer. Pei Meng's phone rang again. It was Pei Xiaohong. He asked directly, I'm in the car. Are you at the hospital or at home? Pei Meng said, eldest uncle is critically ill. We're all at the hospital. Pei Xiaohong, I'll come directly to the hospital. Is second brother here? Meng Shichu asked. Pei Meng nodded. He was supposed to be a while longer, but eldest uncle's condition is unstable. So he handed over the follow-up work to his assistant and came back first. Meng Shichu nodded and said no more. Her father had protected the Pei family as its head for so many years. In the end, his brother, children, and nieces and nephews all remembered his kindness. He should be gratified. The hospital was quiet at night, at least on this floor. The stairwell at the end of the corridor was so quiet you could hear a person breathe. Pei Guangyuan sat on the stairs, his arms wrapped around his neck, his head buried deep between his legs, his shoulders trembling uncontrollably. Hui didn't know how to comfort him. He sat with him for a while, then got up and went downstairs. He returned not long after with a pack of cigarettes and a lighter. Second uncle was still in the same position. Hui sat down next to him again, quietly, not making a sound. After a long time, Pei Guangyuan lifted his head and fumbled in his pockets. A tissue was suddenly offered to him. Thanks. Pei Guangyuan took it, his voice choked with thanks, and turned away to wipe his tears and nose. Once he was done, Hui spoke up, Second uncle, I bought a pack of cigarettes. During a previous chat, Pei Guangyuan had mentioned that he used to smoke, but had quit. Now, he was the only elder of the Pei family left, and he was unwilling to vent his feelings in front of the younger generation. Emotions always needed an outlet. The only thing Hui could think of now was cigarettes. Give me one. Pei Guangyuan accepted the offer. Hui agreed, but was slow to open the pack. You've never smoked, have you? Pei Guangyuan said, as he took the pack from Hui's hand. Young people today weren't as into posturing as the youth of the past. Many didn't smoke or drink. Times were different. Back in their day, you had to smoke and drink to be cool. Now, these young people started taking care of their health early, not staying up late, not going to clubs. Physical and mental health was what was cool in their eyes. An era had passed, and they were old. His older brother was about to die. Thinking of this, Pei Guangyuan's nose tingled and tightened again. He expertly opened the cigarette pack, shook one out, and placed it between his lips. Hui immediately struck the lighter, shielding the flame with his other hand. It had been many years since he had smoked. The first puff made him cough violently, and Hui patted his back. Pei Guangyuan's eyes were redder than before, completely bloodshot. Having calmed down, Pei Guangyuan looked at the cigarette in his hand and said to Hui, it's been so many years since I last smoked. I've almost forgotten how. Before Hui could speak, he continued, I used to smoke too much and had a problem with my lungs. Big brother quit with me, and I've been smoke-free ever since. It's been 17 years. At that time, his wife had been dead for 3 years. The hardest days were over, but his body had started failing. The doctor insisted he must quit smoking. He was a chain smoker, so quitting was very difficult. His big brother quit along with him to support him. His own body had problems so long ago. Why did his big brother have to go before him? The more he thought about it, the more miserable Pei Guangyuan felt, his eyes welling with tears. He turned his face away, trying to hide it, but found that Hui was offering him another tissue. Pei Guangyuan took it and rubbed it roughly against his eyes. The moment he took it away, his vision blurred again, so he just pressed the tissue there. He didn't take another drag from the cigarette between his fingers. Pei Guangyuan spoke again, his voice hoarse. It's because I'm stupid, I'm incompetent, I'm useless. I couldn't help him, and I even caused him trouble. He had to take care of Jin Hui and also manage me. He carried all the burdens by himself. He didn't dare tell anyone. At that time, if Pei Guangyuan had made any mistake, the entire Pei family would have been in trouble. Pei Guanyin had to bear everything alone. Even though he himself was sick, it was so difficult, and there was no way out, he still took good care of his family, brought it to where it is today, and it will go even further. But the price was leaving himself behind. Pei Guanyin was filled with self-blame, shaking his head in guilt. If I had known back then, I should have studied hard, then I could have shared his burden. It's all my fault. Pei Xiaohong arrived after midnight, travel-worn and with undisguised exhaustion on his face. It was clear he hadn't rested well in a long time either. For the past month or two, he had been worried about his family, dealing with his business ventures over there, handing over his work, and had just endured a long journey. The dark circles under his eyes seemed to say he too had reached his limit. Shirchu, Huiche, hello. I'm Pei Xiaohong. Upon meeting, Pei Xiaohong gave a simple self-introduction and then directly asked Pei Jinhui, "Big brother, how is eldest uncle now? Is there any hope if we change the medical team?" Pei Jinhui shook his head, speechless. Pei Xiaohong looked at his own father, but Pei Guanyin had turned to face the wall, looking utterly dejected. It was Meng Shirchu who spoke up. They are already the top experts in the field. Both the traditional Chinese and Western medical teams were top tier, and all had given a death sentence. It was because Pei Guanyin had been sick for too long. The outbreak was already his limit, with no room for recovery. Pei Xiaohong also fell silent. He truly hadn't known the situation at home was this dire. Thinking that his uncle was still relatively young, highly capable, with excellent management skills, and that his older brother had inherited his uncle's abilities and handled things with ease, he had gone to the overseas company. It was because he knew their branch of the family had gotten to where it was today, thanks to his uncle's strong support, that he had no intention of competing with his brother for anything and had proactively distanced himself to put his brother at ease. Who knew it would end up like this? His uncle had depression. So did his brother. Why was God picking on this father and son duo? Silence. The night passed into day. During that time, the doctors checked on Pei Guanyin multiple times, their expressions growing graver each time. Today was the day of the court hearing. The lawsuit against Sang Lan had already attracted considerable attention, and as soon as the day broke, a trending article pushed Sang Lan to the peak of public discourse again. Bigamy, abandonment. The evidence for these two major crimes had surfaced on its own. The man who exposed these two crimes claimed to have lived with Sang Lan for 8 years, and that the pair of children Sang Lan brought back were not the orphans of Savior at all, but his own children with her. Han Qingyu indignantly accused Sang Lan, saying she had promised him that when the time was right, she would bring him back to the Sang family to be reunited with their 2 children. But he waited for so many years, and not only did Sang Lan have no intention of marrying him or reuniting him with the children, but she also fooled around behind his back, treating him like a ghost. Now that Sang Lan was going to marry a young man and have her children call a male prostitute father, he was naturally not happy about it. Han Qingyu threw out a pile of evidence, chat screenshots and call recordings between him and Sang Lan, and even revealed how they had eloped back then and where they had settled. The mountain of evidence was overwhelming. The onlookers felt they couldn't keep up with all the drama, and those within the circle were also shocked. Back then, the Pei family's matriarch was officially declared to have gone missing during a trip. So it wasn't that she went missing, but that the already married Sang Lan was unwilling to accept an arranged marriage and ran off with her first love. This Pei Guanyin really has some patience. His wife runs away, and he tells everyone she's missing. He wins the award for Cuckold of the Year. You don't have to put it like that. The Sang family was so powerful back then, before their downfall. If he had really confronted them, the Pei family probably wouldn't exist today. Sang Lan is something else. She made up a story about getting into an accident during a trip and being saved, and then kindly raised someone else's children. Who is that kind-hearted? If you think about it, if they weren't her kids, would old Master Sang have accepted them back into the family? Tisk, it's too explosive to think about in detail. The moment she learned about Han Qingyu's expose, Sang Lan felt blood rush to her head. Why hadn't that bastard left? Didn't he know that bigamy meant jail time? Jail time was different from being detained for a few days. As one of the 2 parties in a bigamous relationship, if she went in, Han Qingyu definitely wouldn't escape either. That idiot. In court, Sang Lan saw the evidence laid out before her again, and her already bruised and bloodied face couldn't contain her emotions. Last night, she had been celebrating Pei Guanyin's critical condition when an accident occurred. The little playthings she had kept for years found out about each other, came looking for her, and started a fight, all wanting official status. Then they started brawling. The problem was 2 of the young men were seeing other people besides her. One was even with a blonde, blue-eyed man who did business in the capital and seemed to have had a conflict with the Sang family. That person took his anger out on her, saying she stole his business and his man, and hit her. Her arm was broken, and her face was injured. She was already in pain, and then in the morning, she saw Han Qingyu's backstabbing. Now, with all the evidence before her, she couldn't even countersue Pei Guangyan for marital infidelity to vex him. She could have. If she had insisted she went missing and returned to find she had been divorced by her husband in a unilateral lawsuit, she would have been the victim and had the upper hand. But that moron Han Qingyu had to jump out. A fatal blow. She lost the case without a doubt. The abandonment charge was established, and the bigamy charge was even more established. After a professional medical evaluation, Sang Lan was taken into custody on the spot. This outcome had been foreseen since Han Qingyu's exposé that morning. Sang Lan furiously cursed Han Qingyu, calling him an idiot who had been used. She was convinced that Han Qingyu had provided all the evidence. She wouldn't believe that Pei Jinhui and Meng Shichu could have tracked down her and Han Qingyu's life from over 20 years ago. The traces had long been washed away by time. There were 2 more lawsuits in the coming days. Sang Lan didn't care anymore. Do whatever you want. At this point, she wouldn't apologize. Compensation for emotional distress? She didn't have any. She had truly become someone with nothing to lose. As Sang Lan was being escorted away, she saw Pei Jinhui approaching and smiled calmly. "My dear son, you're really something, treating your own mother like this." Pei Jinhui said expressionlessly, "You reap what you sow. I never should have given birth to you." Sang Lan gritted her teeth and lowered her voice. "Or, I should have strangled you when you were born." Words like these could no longer shake Pei Jinhui in the slightest. With the recent intervention of a psychologist and the companionship of his family, he wouldn't lose control so easily. He simply said to Sang Lan, "If you hadn't come back and caused trouble for Aunt Meng, my dad and Aunt Meng would have been fine, and you wouldn't be in this situation today. Everything that has happened today is because of the trouble you caused back then." The Pei family couldn't compete with the Sang family, and Pei Guangyan didn't dare to take the gamble. Meng Ling, an outsider, couldn't fight back either. But after leaving Pei Guangyan, Meng Ling met Ning Chuan, who could be called a mercenary lord, and the gears of fate took a dramatic turn. Back then, Pei Guangyan lost his love to protect his family, endured grievances, and became sick with worry. But it was because of his loss that Meng Shichu made a powerful return, pulling the Pei family completely out of the abyss. From now on, the Pei family would soon lead the 3 major prominent families of the capital. Everything, fate had already marked the price in advance, and had also arranged the best outcome. Sang Lan's reputation was ruined. She herself was imprisoned, and the already precarious Sang family was implicated, hitting rock bottom. Sang Rideo coughed up blood from anger and was admitted to the hospital with a serious illness. During a moment of lucidity, he ordered Sang Lan to be expelled from the Sang family, and her 2 children to be driven out as well. The entire Sang family became pariahs, scorned by everyone. In the next 2 lawsuits, although only the plaintiff's lawyer was present, Sang Lan didn't win a single one. She was ultimately sentenced to 3 years and 10 months in prison, accompanied by a fine, with supervised release to follow after her sentence. Losing was expected, but Sang Lan still took her anger out on a scapegoat, telling her lawyer, "You're useless." The lawyer, "Is she crazy?" After the final verdict came down, the lawyer immediately reported it to Meng Shichu. Meng Shichu had been at the hospital for the past 2 days. Most of her work was being handled by her assistant, though she would also take time to deal with some matters. Seeing the message, Meng Shichu said to Pei Jinhui she was sentenced to nearly 4 years. This was because Sang Lan's bigamy was considered egregious, had a huge social impact, and caused great harm to the original spouse and young child, resulting in a heavier sentence. Pei Jinhui said she brought it on herself. Not long after, Pei Guangyan was wheeled out of the emergency room again and transferred back to the intensive care unit. Facing the gazes of the Meng family, one of the doctors sighed, "We've really done our best. The family should go in and be with him." It was clear what this meant. He had reached the limit of an exhausted lamp, and he probably wouldn't make it through the day. If it were anyone else, without such a top-tier team and extreme medication, their grave would probably have grass growing on it by now. The Pei family had fought for so long, but Pei Guangyan had never woken up, his breath just barely hanging on. Now, even his breath was failing. It was like a person who was extremely tired, resting in a deep sleep, unwilling to wake up. The intensive care unit was opened, and the family members stepped inside. The atmosphere was so heavy it was hard to breathe. Every monitor was flashing, displaying numbers or lines. Pei Jinhui knelt by the bed, resting his head on the edge. "Dad, His voice was already choked as he began to speak. Behind him, Pei Guangyuan covered his eyes with his hand and turned away, trying to hide his emotions. Pei Jinhuai's hand gripped the blanket covering Pei Guangyan as he said in a hoarse, broken voice, "Don't just leave without saying anything. Open your eyes and look at us." No matter what he said, there was no response. Everyone stayed in the room. Pei Jinhuai kept talking, hoping the man lying there could hear. It was because he had heard that the last sense a person loses when they die is hearing. "Dad, we've protected the Pei family that you guarded your whole life. Thanks to Shirchu, she helped you get revenge. The people who bullied you and wronged you have all been punished. Wake up and look at us. You have to tell me in person not to bully your daughter. It only counts if you say it yourself. Don't worry, I won't bully her, I won't." The sun set, and the residual red glow of dusk dyed the glass and spilled into the hospital room, landing on the sickbed. The man who had been lying silently for nearly 3 months had a pale face, looking as if he were just asleep, his features kind. Suddenly, a drop of moisture seeped from the corner of the long unconscious man's eye, slid down, and flowed into his graying sideburns. Just as the people keeping watch by the bed showed joy, thinking a miracle had occurred, the heart rate monitor made an abnormal sound. That single point, like a lead runner, pulled an endless straight line behind it, flattening all the preceding waves with unstoppable momentum. The monitor emitted a sharp alarm. A group knelt before the hospital bed. A doctor recorded the final time on the medical chart. Pei Guangyuan lost control and rushed over, grabbing the bedsheet and shaking the person on the bed. "Brother, how could you leave me? What will I do now that you're gone? Who will look after me in the future?" Pei Guangyuan passed away on the day the Pei family's suffering ended and their good fortune began. It was also the day his years of grievances were redressed. Wanhai officially released an obituary. Chairman Pei Guangyan had passed away from illness, causing a stir in their circle. The head of a generation of the Pei family had fallen ill so suddenly and passed away at a relatively young age, which was truly regrettable. The Pei family's old residence was hung with white silk, and the atmosphere inside was solemn and dignified. In front of the memorial altar, the eternal flame flickered. Pei Jinhuai had been kneeling ever since he returned, continuously feeding yellow paper into the basin, the incense and candles never ceasing. Pei Guangyuan was also holding vigil. He too was kneeling, refusing to listen to the younger generation's pleas. For all these years, his older brother had been like a father to him. As long as his brother was around, there was no problem that couldn't be solved. Suddenly, his brother was gone, and his spiritual support seemed to have collapsed. There would be no older brother to protect him anymore. When he was indecisive or did something wrong, there would be no one to nag at him anymore. With Pei Jinhuai in mourning and Pei Guangyuan lost in grief, Meng Shichu took over the arrangements for Pei Guangyan's funeral, with Pei Xiaohong and Pei Mange providing full support. As Meng Shichu's husband, Hua Che naturally shouldered his responsibilities and was constantly busy. The wake was held for 3 days, followed by a grand funeral. Many friends and partners from the industry came to pay their respects. Pei Guangyan's eulogy was a lengthy account of his lifelong achievements in managing the Pei family. His failed marriage was not worth mentioning. The hall was filled with guests, and white chrysanthemums were laid out in a thick carpet. An unexpected guest arrived at the funeral. Ning Chuan's appearance sparked much discussion among the mourners present. After all, the relationships involved were too delicate. The woman Pei Guangyan loved most was Meng Ling, and he had remained single for half his life for her. Yet Meng Ling's husband was Ning Chuan. Not only that, but Ning Chuan had also raised Meng Ling and Pei Guangyan's daughter. The relationships were extremely sensitive. Perhaps people had speculated that Meng Ling would come to Pei Guangyan's funeral, but no one expected Ning Chuan to be the one to arrive. Ning Chuan walked over, holding 2 bouquets of flowers in his left hand, one of white chrysanthemums and one of sunflowers. He stopped before the memorial, placed the flowers among the others, offered incense, and bowed. As the filial son and daughter, Pei Jinhuai and Meng Shichu bowed in return. Ning Chuan reached out and patted Pei Jinhuai's shoulder lightly. "My condolences." Pei Jinhuai bowed again. Ning Chuan turned to Meng Shichu and said, "Lingling is in a meeting. You know the entertainment industry is under strict regulation this year, and new policies have been issued. She didn't just go today." "Yes, I know." Meng Shichu nodded. Ning Chuan added, "She should be able to make it for Mr. Pei's 7th day memorial." The implication was that Meng Ling would come, but she was currently tied up with work and couldn't get away. Ning Chuan turned and left the memorial hall, meeting the Hua family members in the outer hall. In front of the memorial, Pei Jinhui looked at the single splash of yellow among the sea of white chrysanthemums. Sunflowers were his father's favorite flower, but he had only come to like them after meeting Mingling. Because what he had always liked was not the flower itself, but the sunny, radiant, beautiful, and graceful person. Pei Jinhui knew that bouquet was from Aunt Ming. If his father's spirit was watching from heaven, he would surely be at peace seeing this bouquet. After Pei Guangyin's burial, friends and family paid their respects and gradually dispersed. The atmosphere in the Pei household remained subdued. Everyone was worn out. Even Meng Shichu, who was usually the best at managing her own thoughts, showed signs of fatigue. That evening, Hua Chei's parents and his older brother, Hua Cheng, had dinner at the Pei residence. Ning Chuan was also there. The company of friends and family served as a comfort and guide for the living. Life had to go on. After staying for a while after dinner, the Hua family got up to leave, and Ning Chuan was also about to go. His flight was the next afternoon. He had a friend to meet in the morning, and he planned to stay at a hotel tonight. Pei Jinhui took the initiative to ask him to stay. Not today, maybe next time. Ning Chuan politely declined and said to Pei Jinhui and Pei Xiaohong, "You two must also look forward. Don't waste the path Chairman Pei has paved for you all these years." To be honest, he greatly admired Pei Guanyin. Perhaps swallowing his pride back then seemed a bit weak, but one must always know how to assess a situation. Pei Guanyin had preserved the Pei family through forbearance and compromise, giving them the opportunity for a stunning comeback today, to soar into the sky. Pei Guanyin was a capable and strong man. No matter how others gossiped or belittled him, for the Pei family, he was responsible and dependable, enough to leave a significant mark in the family's history. Ning Chuan didn't want to say more, as this was the Pei family's home after all, but seeing Meng Shichu and Pei Mange walk over, he added another sentence. The deceased has passed on, the living must strive. A harmonious family brings prosperity. I look forward to you younger generation working together to create a new golden age for the Pei family. Thank you, Uncle Ning. We will. Pei Jinhui responded, and Pei Xiaohong also nodded. After a brief chat, Pei Jinhui suddenly said, "Uncle Ning, my father left a letter for Aunt Ming. Could I trouble you to pass it on to her?" This was a decision Pei Jinhui had made after careful consideration. Seeing him turn to get it, Ning Chuan stopped him. "Your Aunt Ming is coming for Chairman Pei's 7th Day Memorial. You can just give it to her directly then. You are Aunt Ming's husband. Giving it to you is the same," Pei Jinhui said. Ning Chuan nodded. "All right then." Pei Jinhui retrieved the letter and handed it over with both hands. Ning Chuan took it and said, "I will pass it on. Thank you also, Uncle Ning, for coming all this way to see him off. My father would wish you and Aunt Ming a lifetime of happiness and peace. I'm leaving now. You all get some good rest. Don't exhaust yourselves anymore. I'll send you a gift when you've recovered." Ning Chuan headed out the door, where his driver was already waiting. After Ning Chuan left, the others returned inside to find Pei Guangyuan sitting on the sofa, smoking one cigarette after another. Pei Xiaohong went over and, without a word, took the half-smoked cigarette from him. "Stop smoking. Eldest uncle wouldn't be happy." Pei Guanyin lowered his head, his eyes sore, his voice hoarse. "Then why doesn't he come and tell me himself?" This retort left Pei Xiaohong speechless. It was just being unreasonable. Pei Guanyin picked up the cigarette pack again, took out another, and was about to light it. At that moment, Hua Chei spoke up. "Second uncle, I've heard people say that if a person has worries or attachments after they pass away, their soul cannot find peace and will linger around the person they are attached to. If they can't let go of their attachments for a long time and cannot find peace, they will lose the chance for rebirth and become a wandering, rootless spirit with no next life." As Hua Chei's voice fell, the lighter in Pei Guangyuan's hand loosened, the flame went out, and he instinctively took the cigarette from his mouth and held it between his fingers. He looked up. "Is that true?" "I don't know. It's just what I've heard from the older generation," Hua Chei said. It was a lie. He had been a spirit before. He knew. A spirit's human emotions gradually fade, and they become an unseen presence, wandering endlessly. He didn't know how one gets reborn, but to comfort someone, a small lie probably wouldn't get him struck by lightning. Besides, when he was a spirit in his past life, he had never seen any other spirits, as if each spirit was its own world. He didn't know what loneliness was, wasn't anxious, wasn't afraid or uneasy. It was just a little boring. "Second uncle," Hua Chei called out, walking over and taking the cigarette from Pei Guangyuan's hand, extinguishing it in the ashtray. He then took his lighter. "Dad paved such a solid road for the Pei family. We should also pave a smooth road for him to his next life. Don't you agree? Pei Guangyuan stared at him, his bloodshot eyes moist. He moved his lips, his voice still hoarse. You brat. If you dare bully Big Brother's daughter, I'll teach you a lesson for him. With that, he stood up and hurried outside. His choked voice left behind a sentence. Jinhui Shichu, you two rest early. I'm heading back. His steps were flustered, his face already streaked with tears. Pei Xiaohong and Pei Mange quickly said their goodbyes and followed him. In the main hall, only Pei Jinhui, Meng Shichu, and Hua Che remained. Tonight, Meng Shichu and Hua Che would be staying over, mainly because they were really worried about Pei Jinhui. The recent psychological intervention had just started to show results, and then Pei Guangyin passed away. For Pei Jinhui, his father's position was unshakable, present from his infancy to his childhood, his youth to his adulthood, never absent. This paternal love had never been hidden. It was direct and profound. Meng Shichu poured Pei Jinhui a glass of water. Did you read the letter Dad wrote? Yes. Pei Jinhui nodded. Dad never intended to interfere with or destroy Aunt Meng and Uncle Ning's marriage, nor did he ever think of getting back together. He just owed Aunt Meng an apology. Back then, they were truly in love. It was he who wasn't capable enough to have the best of both worlds, and he failed Meng Ling's passionate feelings, causing her to leave in anger. He was also glad that Meng Ling chose to leave, otherwise her future would have been constrained by him. Meng Ling deserved better, and she got better. He was grateful to Meng Ling for bringing a ray of sunshine into his life, grateful to Meng Ling for giving birth to their child, and even more grateful to Ning Chuan for treating his daughter so well. He had wronged Meng Ling, but he was also grateful for how fate had arranged things, and he sincerely wished the person he loved a lifetime of happiness, peace, and good fortune. Pei Jinhui took a sip of water and said, Dad wrote this letter as soon as he found out about you. It's just that Aunt Meng was avoiding him, so there was no opportunity to give it to her. The last time Ning Chuan and Meng Ling came to the capital, Pei Guanyin wanted to meet them precisely to deliver the letter himself and tell Meng Ling that she didn't need to hide from him, that he would not be any kind of interference in her happy life now. Unfortunately, Sang Lan's big scene caused a delay, and after that, there were no more chances. I'm sorry. Meng Shichu put down her water glass, feeling ashamed. Perhaps if she had asked a few more questions, there might have been a different outcome. Why are you apologizing? Pei Jinhui shook his head. Dad didn't teach me to be unreasonable. What did the older generation's affairs have to do with the younger generation? The fact that Aunt Meng allowed Meng Shichu to return to the Pei family was probably the answer to the letter his father never got to send. Pei Guangyin's apology had been forgiven from the very beginning. Meng Shichu said, My mom never said anything bad about Dad. I asked her when I was little, and she said my biological father was a gentle and kind man, a very outstanding man. She had also asked Meng Ling, if he was so outstanding, why weren't they together? Meng Ling had said, when people grow up, they often don't have a choice. Gaining and losing are the norm. Not being together is just a matter of fate. At that time, Meng Shichu was still young and didn't quite understand. As she grew up, she now understood most of the meaning of those words. After hearing Meng Shichu's words, Pei Jinhuai's lips curved into a smile. I think, if Dad's spirit is in heaven, he will understand. Oh, right, Shichu. Dad made a will 10 years ago and amended it once when he wrote that letter. His inheritance is to be split equally between you and me. Do you have any objections? Without giving Meng Shichu a chance to speak, Pei Jinhui added, I owe Aunt Meng a lot. In my eyes, you are my real sister. I can give you more, as long as she wanted it, as long as he had it.